Chapter 126. Crew Recruitment Ceremony. It looks like it's nothing. Carl, who was far away on Cake Island, hung up the phone on Ganfor. This time he also wanted to test whether the secret chess he had deployed all over the world could work. But fortunately nothing happened. Just as Ganfor was flying everyone towards Cake Island, New World's Beehive Island ushered in its first pirate gathering. Ouch! I must join Rock's Pirate. Look at how skinny you are. If you join Rock's Pirate, that's definitely me. Stop arguing, you don't even know the rules of the game. The outside of the arena on Beehive Island. Thousands of pirates gather here. They are rushing to participate in this opportunity for Rock's Pirate to select members. At this time, a middle-aged scar-faced man stood up. His face was determined, and there was a hint of fear in his eyes. What happened? Yes, what's wrong with this rule? His speech attracted the attention of several people around him, who quickly ran to him and asked him. I heard from the grapevine that Rock's Pirate will only admit 1,000 people this time, but you see so many people want to enter, what do you think? Several people next to him were also shocked and speechless. You must know that there are not only a few thousand people present, but tens of thousands of people. Only 1,000 people are recruited out of tens of thousands, but what about the rest? Several people thought of this terrible idea and backed away. Squeak. At this moment, the dozens of meters high gate of the arena slowly opened. Two giants stood on both sides of the gate. Tap tap tap. Those who want to participate in the Rock's Pirate selection can enter. Morris walked out of the door with a microphone in his hand and a smile on his face. Ouch, come on. I came here to join Rock's Pirate. It's Captain Rox who executed the Celestial Dragons. Whatever you say today, I will join the Rock's Pirate. The pirates present seemed to have heard the order to charge, and ran towards the door like crazy. This is my first time participating in such an event. Old la la la, it's my first time too, clang. Carl, Newgate and others sat on the high platform and toasted each other. Well, Carl, do you want to recruit some new crew members? Charlotte Linlin knew that Carl actually didn't have many people under his command. As a big pirate, how could he only have so few people under his command? Ha ha ha, Linlin. I'm a person who prefers to be short-lived. Forget about the trash fish and all that. Carl naturally knew that Charlotte Linlin was thinking about him, but he really didn't want to recruit a bunch of trolls. And the best way to cultivate this underlying power is to cultivate it yourself. Directly recruiting such heinous pirates may cause unnecessary impact. Gia ha ha ha. You don't like it, but I do. Golden Lion doesn't care, in his opinion, as long as the strength is about the same. Everyone can join his pirate group. Otherwise, he would not have thousands of troops in the later stage. Snort. John snorted softly from the side. What he couldn't stand the most now was Carl's proud look. But he hasn't thought of any good way to deal with Carl yet. Carl naturally noticed John's expression, and at this time he suddenly touched his chin. If I remember correctly, before the Battle of the Valley of the Gods started, it seemed that Rock's treasure was all placed with John. So he turned and looked at John with a smile. John thought he was discovered by Carl, so he smiled sarcastically, but little did he know that Carl was just thinking about his treasure. More than 30,000 pirates outside have also entered the arena. The arena doors slowly closed. Ha ha ha. Rox stood up from the dais, unbridledly unleashing his domineering conqueror's haki. What a terrifying momentum. I feel like I can't hold on anymore. Plop. Hey, what's going on? Some pirates who couldn't bear Rock's conqueror's haki fell to the ground. But Rox himself also knew how strong his conqueror's haki was, so he didn't unleash it at full strength. I only want 1,000 people. In this arena, the last 1,000 people standing can join the Rock's Pirate. Let's start. Rock's words were brief and serious. After he finished speaking, he sat down again and looked at the pirates below. Peeved. Well, you. He didn't expect that the person he had just had a pleasant conversation with stabbed the knife directly into his waist. Sorry, I want to join Rock's Pirate. Bang bang bang. Dang dang dang. Clang, clang, clang. This was like the clarion call to attack, and the more than 30,000 people present instantly started a melee. Grown-ups. Carl turned his head and looked at the helpless eyes of Long Yi and Long Er. This is a world where the jungle prevails. If you don't want to be bullied, you want to have the right to speak. It depends on this. Carl knew that the two of them couldn't bear to watch the scene below. But this scene will always appear in any corner of the pirate world. Unless you are strong enough, you will only become a prey for others. The two nodded firmly. They knew. If Carl hadn't rescued them from the auction house, they might not know where they died now. Carl did not continue speaking. He just looked at the other side of the stand. The people standing on the other side were Carl's men and some fishmen. He couldn't help but smile bitterly and shook his head. Maybe it's because he took good care of his people and protected them too thoroughly. This is not very good. Today I just brought them to see the world. Later he will gradually let go of power. Let them truly experience the cruelty of the pirate world. Brother Newgate, do you have anyone you like? Carl sat at the table, eating and watching. Gulala. You can't find true friends here. Newgate has never made any real friends in Rock's Pirate. Even his subordinates are composed of various interests. However, fortunately, over the years, I have accumulated some sincere subordinates. Except you, of course. He paused for a moment and turned to look at Carl, his expression solemn. Ha ha ha, you're welcome, Brother Newgate. If you hadn't brought me here from the desert island, I might not have known where I was. Drink, drink. Gu la la la. Newgate used a smile to cover up the flash of worry in his eyes. Rox is too ambitious. What if something happens one day? Carl will definitely not be able to escape. After all, being a vice captain is not that easy. These cadres can go out and neutralize themselves, but Carl will definitely be the target of being rounded up. Over the years, he has also guessed what Rox wants to do. After all, he doesn't like killing, so he is the only one who has the most time to think about life on Beehive Island. Chapter 127. Feng Yu Ya Ya, brother guy, don't worry. Carl didn't care a little. In his opinion there was systematic help. In this world, as long as he doesn't seek death, there is usually no danger. Gu la la la, it's just that I worried too much. Newgate thought the same thing. Carl's characteristics were inherently invincible. And the brief encounter with Captain Rox was not bad either. As long as it's not a siege and one-on-one, there seem to be very few people in the world who can hold Carl down. Well, Carl, did you see that man? Carl followed Charlotte Linlin's gaze. In the east corner of the arena, a man wearing wooden shoes and colorful kimono came into view. Hiss, he can't be Wano Kuni, right? Carl's eyes began to stare at the kimono man in the distance. What an unexpected surprise. You must know that even the fishmen commanded by Clay have not found Wano Kuni's location. Unexpectedly, I saw a person from Wano Kuni today, so I can follow the clues to find Wano Kuni's location. Wano Kuni has a lot of sea stone. In this pirate world, sea stone is the thing that is linked to Bailey. Clay. Lord Carl. Clay heard Carl's call from the side and ran over quickly. Did you see that person? He should be from Wano Kuni. Keep an eye on him. Carl called Clay to his eyes and pointed at the kimono man in the distance. Understood, Lord Carl. Clay nodded. He didn't expect Wano Kuni's people to appear in front of him like this. He had to keep a close eye on them. Carl also looked more at the kimono man. You need to know the time from the original work to the Wano Kuni chapter. A total of about 11 devil fruit appeared in Wano Kuni, which is not a small number. Even the zone phantom beast species has two, namely the Renren fruit great entrance form, and the dog fruit large-mouth true form. Not to mention the later green bull, the sensen fruit he eats seems to be in Wano Kuni as well. There are also imitations of the Kurozumi family, barrier and phantom beast species Yamata no Orochi form. And the little girl's dumpling fruit. The fruit of time in the sky and moon. The ripe fruit of retainers, the fruit of submission, and the fruit of painting. It can be said that Wano Kuni is an untapped treasure land. Keep an eye on him, don't let him die. Recruit him into our team. Carl felt that it was still a little unsafe and asked Clay to go over there and keep an eye on him to prevent him from dying. Understood, Lord Carl. After receiving the order, Clay quickly walked to that side, staring at the kimono man along the way. In my opinion, it's a waste if Kinnaman eats the fruits of submission. It can be transformed into various costumes, why can't it be transformed into an armored warrior? Maybe it can be turned into the Emperor's armor, my favorite. Carl thought about it and became a little lustful. This is the Emperor's armor. This is the dream of many men when they were young. Or none of the armors in the Super Beast arms can do it. Carl's eyes gradually became fierce. Everything is mine. Feng Yu Ya in the field felt a dark wind coming from behind. Whoosh! He turned around and slashed horizontally, finding that there was no one behind him. It's really weird. Ah! The pirate next to him watched him completely expose his back, showed a ferocious smile, and then strode forward. Clang! Feng Yu Ya's fighting instinct was not limited either, so she hurriedly turned around to resist. You brat, your reaction speed is pretty fast. He didn't expect this defenseless person to be able to block his attack. Haha, you're not bad either. Feng Yuya has actually been hiding his strength. His true strength is already one step closer to a great swordsman. He also had a mission to go to sea this time, but he just happened to come here. Be careful. Feng Yuya also closed her eyes slightly, and the next moment her whole body's aura calmed down. One sword-style flash, tear it apart. A flash of sword light flashed out from the waist of the pirate in front of him. Well, the pirate looked down at his lower body. It had obviously been cut in the middle, hiding strength. Little did he know that Carl had been paying attention to him from above. So when he used his sword energy, Carl knew that his strength was far more than what he appeared to be. In this case, Carl was relieved. Now that Wano Kuni has clues, the next goal is to conquer Wano Kuni. Kaido. Captain Rox. At this moment, Rox actually spoke, attracting everyone's attention. You go down and help them reduce their burden. Rox just didn't expect that these pirates were so weak. They had been fighting for nearly an hour. There were actually more than 20,000 people standing there. If the fight continued like this, there would be no winner until dark. Got it, Captain Rox. Kaido looked at the scene below and naturally understood what Captain Rox meant. It just so happens that he doesn't like sitting here either. Kaido jumped straight down from the high platform with the mace in hand. What is that? That's a person, get away quickly. Kaido is not small after all. When he jumped down, he was already spotted by the pirates below. Boom! It's just that the reminder was a little late, and he killed several pirates when he came down. Goose, 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 as long as one of you can knock me down, you can join the Rox pirate. Kaido stood there with the mace on his shoulder and smiled wildly. Kill, he is just an intern, there is nothing to be proud of. Come on. The pirates around Kaido ran towards him. Thunder 8 trigrams. Kaido covered armament haki on the mace and used his signature move. Boom. Ah. Kaido brandished his mace and charged into the crowd as if he was in no man's land. The pirates present were knocked away and even died. Kaido, this guy's strength is growing very fast. Well, Charlotte Linlin stopped eating snacks with her right hand and looked at Kaido, who was sending Kamui on the field. No, it's not your fault. In fact, the reason why the current Kaido is stronger than the original. It was because Charlotte Linlin knew that he had this so-called Great Return pill that increased his strength. So at Charlotte Linlin's request, Kaido was given one. And what's more, he will be one of the 4 emperors in the future. As soon as Carl finished speaking, he felt as if he had said the wrong thing. I didn't expect to accidentally say this. Well. 4 emperors? Although Charlotte Linlin knew that Carl seemed a bit magical in some ways. Although he has never eaten devil fruit, weapons can appear out of thin air in his hands. Moreover, he can also take out magical elixirs such as the Bloodline Pill and the Great Return Pill. But from the literal meaning, I didn't expect that it could predict the future. Haha, you may have heard wrong. What I said is that he will definitely be a strong man in the future. Okay, let's take a quick look and see which pirates are worth collecting. Although Carl knew that Charlotte Linlin was unlikely to be fooled by a few words. But now is really not the time to talk about this topic. Well, Charlotte Linlin smiled and looked at the other people present with their ears pricked up, but did not ask any more questions. Then there was silence. Goose. Is there anyone else coming? Kaido stood on the ground arrogantly. After dozens of minutes of fighting, There were probably less than 1,000 people left on the field. Okay, that's it. Anyone alive is eligible to join the Rox Pirate. Rox saw that the time and number of people were almost up, and stood up to announce the final result. Survived. Yes, this person is a monster. Only those who survive know how strong Kaido is. I almost died. After Feng Yuya heard the end, you didn't care about your face and sat on the ground panting heavily. The sharp knife he held in his hand had broken into pieces. I didn't expect it was just one blow. He looked at the sharp knife in his hand with a distressed expression, but he didn't expect that even one blow was almost missed. Chapter 128, Preparation Before Departure, Jia ha ha ha. If you want to join my team, come here. Now that the battle is over, the next step is to snatch members. Regarding this matter, Golden Lion really wants it. He hopes that there will be more and more people under his command. Captains such as John, Ochaku, and Silver Axe also jumped in to recruit their own crew members. Brother Carl, I'm going down too. Newgate also had someone he liked, so he immediately said hello and jumped down. Carl and Linlin looked at each other, smiled at each other, and jumped down one after another. Linlin was looking for some candidates he liked. And Carl came straight to Feng Yuye. I'm Carl. You must have heard of my name. Are you interested in joining my team? Feng Yuya also looked at the tall Carl in front of her, slightly stunned. He didn't expect that Carl was exactly as described on the wanted poster, more than 8 meters tall. Captain Carl, hello. My name is Feng Yuya, smart choice. Carl didn't expect him to agree so quickly. In fact, in Feng Yuya's perception, although Carl in front of him was smiling, he seemed to be hiding some huge fear. He did not perceive wrongly if Feng Yuya did not join Carl's team. Carl might not talk to him so kindly. Jia ha ha ha. I'm leaving first. Carl's eyes were attracted by the Golden Lion. I saw the Golden Lion standing on a huge wooden board. Taking his hundreds of newly joined crew members, he flew towards his station. Several other captains also selected candidates and headed towards the inner city. He turned around again and saw Captain Rock's figure gradually fading away from the high platform. Let's go, take you back to the station, Carl chuckled, then grabbed Feng Yuya and flew towards the station. Your name is Feng Yuya, right? Several hours passed. After dinner, Carl called Feng Yuya to the hall. In the center of the hall sat Carl and Linlin, and below were Clay, Perispero and others. Master Carl, Master Charlotte Linlin, my name is Feng Yuya. Feng Yuya still doesn't know what the special meaning of Carl calling him over is. Are you from Wano Kuni? Carl didn't hesitate and got straight to the point. Yes, I'm from Wano Kuni. Feng Yaya was also shocked. It seemed that he hadn't told Mr. Carl about his hometown yet. But listening to Lord Carl's tone, it seemed that he was indeed from Wano Kuni. Wano Kuni, isn't it a state of isolation? Can you tell me your purpose of coming out to Wano Kuni? Carl actually wanted to know what the purpose of this Wano Kuni warrior was. There seems to be no Fuzuki Masaya in the original work. He must have died in the New World. Even when Kurozumi ruled Wano Kuni, no one from the Fugetsu family came out. I guess he either lived in seclusion or was exterminated. There is even an even more pitiful Ugetsu family that has never appeared. I came out to look for the old man of the Shimotsuki family. Feng Yuya just said vaguely, he didn't really want to tell his ultimate goal. Shimotsuki Kozaburo? Carl had some questions. Has he come out of Wano Kuni at this time? He only remembers Shimotsuki Koshiro in Shimotsuki village in East Blue. But he didn't know when Shimotsuki Kozaburo went to sea. Master Carl, do you know Shimotsuki Kozaburo, the father of the Shimotsuki family? Feng Yuya also exclaimed with a look of surprise. He didn't expect that Carl actually knew Shimotsuki Kozaburo. If I remember correctly, he should be in East Blue now. Do you have anything to do with him? In my memory, it seems that Shimotsuki Kozaburo has never been to other places since he arrived at East Blue Shimotsuki village. There he gave birth to Shimotsuki Genshiro and taught Zoro. Wano Kuni Fugetsu, the Ugetsu family and the Shimotsuki family are in conflict, and they need someone with high moral integrity to return to take charge of the overall situation. It would be great to know the location of Mr. Shimotsuki. Feng Yuya never expected that Karl actually knew the address of Shimotsuki Kozaburo. But don't be happy too early. What's the meaning? Karl's change of subject actually frightened Feng Yuya. I wonder how your family views the founding of the country. Karl did not directly state his purpose, but tried to ask first. But according to his memory, it seems that only people of Kazuki Oden's generation want to found a country. Master Karl, how do you know? Feng Yuya's face changed slightly. He didn't expect Lord Karl to know the news about Wano-kuni. You must know that Wano-kuni has been in seclusion for so many years and has long faded out of the sight of the sea. It can be said that I have fallen in love with Wano-kuni. So, whether you want to find Mr. Shimotsuki or not, whether Wano-kuni wants to found a country, I will win it. Karl could tell from his tone that Wano-kuni's internal opinions on the idea of founding the country were definitely not unified. The people on Wano-kuni are quite united, no wonder Kaido lost so miserably. It seems that it will take a lot of effort to truly capture Wano-kuni. Lord Karl, Wano-kuni has been in seclusion for so many years. It's true that there are people who want to establish Wano-kuni as a country, but none of them have succeeded. Feng Yuya, as a younger generation, naturally wants to found a country. He had seen the beauty outside, and suddenly felt that Wano-kuni seemed a little too decadent. You have not completed the founding of the country, but you are not strong enough. I believe that with absolute power, founding is just a particle, not a verb. Karl's eyes were dark, and his whole body exuded a faint aura of oppression. Don't bother me, old man. Take me to Wano-kuni. Your internal conflicts are not worth mentioning in my eyes. Under Karl's momentum, Feng Yuya also thought about it carefully. Indeed, conflicts within the family cannot be resolved by just one person. Their hopes in this respected old man of the Shimotsuki family were actually groundless. And even if he found it, he might not be able to bring him back. No problem, Lord Karl. I can take you there, I just hope you don't anger the residents of the island. Feng Yuya is also natural, but she still has to mention it first, because the residents of Wano-kuni are quite exclusive. Well, unexpectedly, I got news from Wano-kuni. Karl had already told Charlotte Linlin about Wano-kuni's situation. The sea stone alone was enough to excite both of them. Not to mention Wano-kuni also has 11 devil fruits. But if I remember correctly, the Zone Phantom Beast species, Yamata no Orochi form, should be in the hands of the Kurozumi brothers and sisters. Karl regained his momentum and turned around to think about how to gain the ability to extract devil fruit. After all, the barrier fruit ability is actually quite good. Well, are they the latest brother and sister to join Rock's Pirate? That's right, it's them. Chapter 129, Teaching 5 Elements Boxing. Master Karl, are you talking about the Kurozumi family? Feng Yuya below also heard the speeches of Karl and Master Linlin, and immediately asked in surprise. Yes, those are Kurozumi Kaken and Kurozumi Semimaru of the Kurozumi family. What, do you know them? Karl thought about it and was right. The two Kurozumi brothers seemed to have been kicked out of Wano-kuni. Moreover, there have been rumors in the original work that the Kurozumi family is actually Wano-kuni's orthodoxy. The 5 major families of Kazuki and Shimotsuki are families that came down from the moon, so their surnames only have 1 month in them. Otherwise, why is Wano-kuni's blacksmithing technology leading the world? Even the historical text was created by the Kazuki family. I don't know what happened specifically, I just know that several families expelled the Kurozumi family from Wano-kuni at the same time. Fuzuki Masaya actually doesn't know why the people in the clan expelled the Kurozumi family overseas. But the family must have their reasons for doing this. Clay, Lord Karl. Clay walked out from the crowd and looked at Karl. Find a place for this companion of the Fengyue family, and we will set off for Wano-kuni tomorrow. Understood, Lord Karl. Clay stood up and walked to Feng Yuya, extending his right hand to guide him. After taking Feng Yuya out of the conference room, Karl also announced the order to disband. Do you want to go together? He looked at Redfield next to him and extended an invitation to him. No, I received news from Sleeping Ancient Town and want to find the Phantom Beast species. When I chatted with Redfield before, I briefly introduced some fruits of Phantom Beast species. Sure enough, He secretly chose the phantom beast species bat fruit vampire form. Is this the legendary sympathy? Are you going alone? He also learned about the news about Sleeping Ancient Town, which is located in the second half of New World, near Dressrosa. But if I remember correctly, Roger has already arrived at the second half of New World at this time. If the two of them met, Redfield would really suffer a small loss. Don't worry, if I want to leave, no one can leave me. Redfield was extremely confident in his ability. Although Redfield has not yet reached the peak of his strength. But his strength has also reached the admiral level, not to mention that he is still a pure physical expert. So if there was no siege, not many people would be able to stop him. Okay, be safe along the way, on Visalia Sky Island. In 15 days we will arrive at New World Cake Island. I will be responsible for training you during this period and teaching you 5 elements boxing. Ganfu stood in front of the children, his expression a little excited. This is the first time I have taught a child to practice martial arts. Of course, what excites him is that after teaching children to practice martial arts, he will have a certain contribution value. In this way, he can exchange it for higher level skills. Because since he practiced 5 elements boxing himself, he can clearly feel that his strength has increased to more than one level. Now, he particularly wants to obtain more advanced techniques so that he can increase his strength again. Why do you feel like this person is a little unreliable? I think so. I feel the same way. When Sakazuki and Borsellino were whispering, Yishao suddenly interrupted. When did you come here? Sakazuki crossed his arms and looked cold. I'm down here. I've always been here. A smile has not scratched his eyes at this time, and a smile in childhood was not so rough. Come, follow me. At this time, Ganfu stood in front of everyone and began to show the starting posture of 5 elements boxing, teaching them how to train one by one. Don't tell me, there is something. At the beginning, everyone followed the practice and felt nothing. When they practiced for the second time, their bodies gradually produced heat. It was obviously different from the first time. The more they practiced after that, the more they felt a kind of fatigue coming from all over their bodies. After practicing more than a dozen times, the only ones on the court who could still practice normally were Sakazuki, Borsellino and Yishao. After a while, the 3 people also fell to the ground exhausted. Ba bang bang, okay, now it's your mealtime. Ganfuor clapped his hands and a group of attendants came over and brought the cooked Sea King's meat in front of everyone. This is also a necessary step. When you are exhausted from training, using Sea Kings is the most effective way to improve your strength. This is also the case on Beehive Island before passing by. The children recruited had undergone experiments. What kind of meat is this? I feel hot all over after eating it. A child next to him asked directly about his feelings. This is Sea King's meat. Sea Kings are fish ranging from tens of meters in size to thousands of meters in length. Their meat is rich in nutrients. After hearing Ganfu's introduction, the children quickened their pace of eating. It's like being in a competition for fear of eating less. Within Kuova, Borsellino pushed up his sunglasses, showing a vulgar expression at a young age. He snatched these sunglasses from another child. He wore it on his face every day after that. After dinner, you will go back to your respective rooms to rest. We will continue tomorrow. After Ganfu finished speaking, he walked excitedly towards the Shaozongjing Pavilion on the island. Because every time he teaches a game, he will receive certain contribution points. Only in this way can he buy what he wants in Shaozongjing Pavilion. The Shaozongjing Pavilion is actually a very small attic. There are various styles of video phone bugs inside, as well as different secrets of different exercises. The points should be enough. I want to redeem them for level 8 boxing. Ganfu has gradually accumulated enough points these days. Because 5 elements boxing is free, everyone can practice it. What he wants to exchange is the 8th level fist, which is currently the most lethal. After entering, he directly found his favorite phone bug. Should I deduct 1000 points to practice 8th level boxing? Deduction. Ganfu seemed a little impatient. This was not the first day he had been thinking about level 8 boxing. I have already understood the power of the 8th level boxing through the videophone bug before. In the videophone bug, there is a video of No-T and Khalil fighting. He completely abandoned No-T and Hal's size and strength. But indeed, judging from the moves alone, Bajiquan is indeed a more lethal attack method. Almost every part of the body can be used to attack. It can turn into a war machine at any time. He came to the small martial arts field nearby and started practicing on the image phone bug. Chapter 130. Wano-kuni Beehive Island. After yesterday's member recruitment session, now Beehive Island is beginning to become calm again. In the morning, Carl took Davis, White Tiger, Clay and others to Wano-kuni. At the same time, Clay summoned an army of 50,000 fishmen far away in the desert sea. Let them follow the fleet towards Wano-kuni. If you really want to capture Wano-kuni, it will take more than just these people. It's impossible for them to take action, right? With Masaya Fugetsu, a local, leading the way, it was not too difficult to find Wano-kuni. It only took them 5 days to reach the sea off Wano-kuni. Looking at the nearly 100-meter-high waterfall in front of them, everyone present felt a little embarrassed. Master Carl, how do we get up here? Clay looked at Carl's vow and hurriedly stepped forward to ask. It's right to think about it. Lord Carl asked him to look for Wano-kuni in the first place. If you are not familiar with Wano-kuni, how can you possibly say Wano-kuna's name? What he didn't know was that if he hadn't read the original work, Carl wouldn't actually know how to get up there. Don't worry, have you seen the carp next to you? Carl chuckled and turned his attention to the giant carp flowing backwards towards the waterfall. Everyone turned their attention to the huge group of carps in the middle of the waterfall. Groups of carp swam toward the top of the river. Some carps are bigger than their boat. Find a way to tie ropes to them so that our ship can be towed to Wano-kuni. After Carl finished speaking, Clay quickly ordered the underwater fishmen to form huge ropes into sleeves and put them on the 2 huge carps. The next moment, the entire ship flew upwards quickly as if it had a motor. Seeing this, the densely packed fishmen behind them also started to swim up the waterfall. In the sea, fishmen can swim against the current, which is also their talent. Is this Wano-kuni? Soon everyone's boat was pulled to a lake by carp. The lake in front of me was calm, far less dangerous than before. Apparently they've reached Wano-kuni. The boat docked at the shore, and Jennifer jumped out with her camera to take pictures. Some crew members came down and began to repair the ship. The violent impact just now caused some damage to the whole body of the ship. So ship repairs are entirely necessary. Feng Yuya, lead the way. Feng Yuya also heard Carl's words and nodded. He raised his head, took a rough look at the direction, and saw the mark when he left. So he led everyone towards the island. Is this your home? Everyone came to the door of Feng Yuya's house and looked at the dilapidated house in front of them with some disbelief. After all, he is one of the 5 major Wano-kuni families. How did he decline like this? Could it be that he was suppressed by other families? I'm sorry, Lord Carl. Our Feng Yue family has declined, and there are only a dozen members in the family now. Hearing what Feng Yuya said, Carl couldn't help but nodded. The family has declined like this. No wonder there is no information about the Feng Yue and Yugyue families in the original work. It turns out that they were already in decline at this time. It seems that after Kurozumi ruled Wano-kuni, the Fugetsu and Ugetsu families died. Please come in. Feng Yuye pushed the creaking door in front of her, and then led a group of people inside. Father, I'm back. Ya is back. A weak voice came from the house, and then a middle-aged man was seen holding a cane. His body seemed to be blown down by a gust of wind. We have a guest, Masaya. The first thing Feng Yudahe saw was Carl's huge body. A trace of fear flashed across his face, but it returned to calm the next second. It was obvious that this middle-aged man's chi nurturing skills were not low. Although he was a little afraid of Carl's huge figure, his expression remained unchanged. Please take a seat, but as soon as Feng Yudahe finished speaking, he felt that he had said something wrong. With Carl's huge body, there was no stool in the room suitable for his size. But at this time, he had no time to take back his words. That's no need. The purpose of our coming to Wano-kuni is to help Wano-kuni found a country and bring Wano-kuni under my rule. Carl looked at Feng Yuya, who quickly stepped forward to support his father on the stool and whispered to him carefully. This was what we had agreed upon when we came here, and we wanted to bring people from the 5 major families together. Only through the connection of Feng Yue Dahe can the 5 major families be connected together as quickly as possible. As for the tens of thousands of murlocs, they have been arranged to search for sea stone and devil fruit. I understand. Anyway, our Feng Yue family has declined, and there is no one to take care of it. Therefore, if we cannot establish a country, I have no interest in who will rule this country. While I still have the strength, I will help you. Through his son's conversation, Feng Yue Dahe learned about Carl's purpose of coming here. He also knew the forces on the sea now, so he had no reason to refuse. He didn't dare to refuse. He stood up, walked into the house tremblingly, and took out a firework. Whoosh! Snapped. A sky-piercing monkey flew into the sky and exploded, revealing a pink arrow. What happened to the Feng Yue family? Emergency call. Let's go. You come with me. Kazuki Sukiyaki of the Kazuki family led 18-year-old Kazuki Oden towards the Fugetsu family's residence. Jennifer used the power of painting fruits to draw a large number of stools outside the courtyard. Soon a group of people came from afar, and they were people from other families. Feng Yue Dahe came to us today, what's the matter? Kazuki Sukiyaki walked in front of everyone, looked at Fugetsu Taiga in front of him, and asked. He naturally saw Carl and others beside him, but in his opinion, this was not something that the Feng Yue family could use the emergency signal at will. It was I who asked him to call you. I now declare Wano-kuni mine. I hope you won't deny me face. Carl stood in front and said, after Haki finished speaking, he also released his domineering conqueror's Haki. People from other families present couldn't bear the pressure and fell to their knees. This was also the first time that Carl unleashed Captain Rock's Conqueror's Haki with all his strength, and it was indeed not that powerful. The sky began to pour water, and cracks appeared on the ground. We will not give in. Kazuki Sukiyaki, I didn't expect to encounter such a thing today. But the stranger in front of him wanted to rule Wano-kuni, which he couldn't accept, because now the rulers of Wano-kuni are the Kazuki family. I don't think you will know the consequences of not giving in. I want to rule and govern the country by peaceful means. Don't force me to use force. The next moment, Carl transformed into his true form as a titan and summoned terrifying thunder on the spot. The faces of everyone present began to turn blue. Then the thunder was thrown directly towards the hill thousands of meters away. The next moment, the hill disappeared directly into the air. Kazuki Oden looked unconvinced and wanted to stand up and fight. Do not move. Kazuki Sukiyaki's face was solemn, and he reached out to press down Kazuki Oden, who was about to rush forward. We surrender. Kazuki Sukiyaki knew that with the absolute strength advantage, they had no chance of winning. Feeling the terrifying momentum released by the man in front of him, even if everyone joins in, there is no hope of winning. But he will not surrender so simply. Now that they have not gathered all their strength together, he has to wait for the opportunity. Of course, Carl saw his unwillingness and knew that they were not willing to surrender. He has already thought of countermeasures, as long as he can feed them and give them work. Subtly, I believe that in 2/3 generations no one will remember that Wano-kuni is from the Kazuki family. He would not rule by force like Hanhan Kaido, as that would only arouse their resistance. In that case, let's get up and do it. Carl wanted to announce some policies first, and then decided to leave some people here to watch. Chapter 131. Seastone Mining Tujing. From now on, you will still be the leader of the 5 major families, and the top ruler will naturally be me. Carl paused and continued. I will give you enough food and money, but you have to work accordingly. I don't like freeloaders. Carl directly transferred a set of policies from Blue Star. We need to establish hospitals, education, transportation, etc. If Carl wants to truly bring Wano-kuni into his rule, he must put his imprint on it from the roots. Whether it is medical care, education, economy, or manufacturing, they all need to be under his rule. He must be the real controller of Wano-kuni. After these few moves, in 1 or 2 generations, he will be able to truly bring Wano-kuni under his control. Each of your families will be responsible for one piece, and I will keep Clay here. But no matter what, it is still unknown what evil intentions they have in their hearts. Therefore, for the sake of safety, some insurance measures are still needed. Carl's eyes turned to Clay. Now only Clay can arrange these things in front of him with ease, and can also monitor them. Understood, Lord Carl. Clay is in charge. He also understands the heavy responsibility he will shoulder next. Wano Kuni is no better than Cake Island. Cake Island is an uninhabited island and can be developed in any way. But here in Wano Kuni, the relationships between various families need to be dealt with. Even if necessary, various families can be made suspicious and disintegrate them from within. As long as they are not united, they will not cause trouble in the process of ruling Wano Kuni. Carl quickly finished allocating things, and then everyone began to prepare for tonight's banquet. Mainly because I didn't expect it to go so smoothly. But that's right, Carl's current strength is not comparable to that of Kaido. Although they were all unconvinced, looking at the traces left by the disappeared hill in the distance, they all chose to start again. He also knew in his heart that these families must not be completely loyal. They want to resist at any time, but as long as they don't resist immediately. Then he believes that Wano Kuni will be his sooner or later. Hey, big guy. Would you like to compare notes? Kazuki Oden felt a little resentful and looked at Noti next to him. Although he has not yet inherited the position of daimyo of the Kazuki family, it does not mean that he does not have resentment in his heart. It's like this thing was supposed to be yours, but someone else suddenly picked the peach from you. Previously, Noti was responsible for garrisoning Cake Island, but it was rotated every 3 months. Fields had now taken his place, so Noti followed suit this time. He. Can you? Noti leaned over and looked at the dwarf in front of him, and smiled softly. He didn't think the young man in front of him could compete with him. Indeed, compared to Noti's height of 4.2 meters, Kazuki Oden is now only 2 meters tall. The difference between their bodies is a little more than half. Hey, big man, your strength doesn't depend on your height. Kazuki Oden looked unconvinced. He didn't expect that the man in front of him would despise him because of his height. He will also grow taller in the future. And his current height is no longer considered short in Wano Kuni. In Wano Kuni, a height of about 2 meters is already different from ordinary people. Okay, just relax and relax your muscles and bones. Noti looked at more and more people present, all preparing for the evening banquet. He didn't have to do anything, and seemed a little bored. I happened to be practicing with the little guy in front of me, so I motioned to the deep pit over there. Walk. Kazuki Oden took long strides and walked towards that direction first. He wants to teach this person a lesson and let them know that Wano Kuni people are not so easy to bully. Noti scratched his head from behind, showed a silly smile, and followed closely. Then I'm coming. Kazuki Oden was the first to arrive in the pit. Feeling the faint thunder flowers remaining on the deep pit, my heart became more determined. He knew he was no match for that person now, but he believed that he would be able to defeat that man and get Wano Kuni back. Come over here. Noti stood on the other side and showed off the starting move of the 8th level fist. Oden's 2-sword-style samurai Great Soul. Kazuki Oden gritted his teeth, held Enma and Tiana Yuzen in both hands, and released Emission Haki. He crossed his swords and rushed towards Nuoti quickly. Straight punch, elbow to the heart. Noti felt the pressure brought by Kazuki Oden, and the corners of his mouth split into flowers. He didn't expect that the young man in front of him was actually pretty good. First, he used his right hand covering armament haki to resist the cross slash, and then used his elbow to hit Oden's chest through the knife. Bang! Swish, swish, swish. Kazuki Oden is still young after all, and his current slashes cannot cause harm to a top vice admiral master like Noti. The whole person rolled back dozens of meters and hit a raised rock. Kazuki Oden sat up and rubbed his left chest. It's not over yet. Noti was certainly not the kind of person to launch an attack once and then stop. He walked at a very fast pace and swung his shocking fist straight towards Kazuki Oden. Clang, clang, clang. Kazuki Oden immediately stood up and counterattacked, and the two quickly fought on the spot. Hey, is that young man from the Kazuki family? Yes, it's Kazuki Oden. I heard that he threw his mother out of bed right after he was born. This kid's strength is not ordinary, he is a natural freak. The perimeter of the pit was soon filled with a large circle, and onlookers commented on it one after another. I didn't expect that just one of that man's subordinates could actually suppress someone like Oden. It seems that we need to take a long-term approach. Kazuki Sukiyaki is certainly no ordinary person. You know, there are a dozen people like No T around Carl. And according to the information obtained by Feng Yueyaya, the people Carl brought over this time were only a small part of the force. The head of the Shimotsuki family next to him also nodded, his face solemn. They knew that it would be difficult to get Wano-kuni back. Lord Carl, we have found it. Just as they were watching, a fishman came to Carl. After the fishman's exploration, the seastone mining site has been found. I don't need to say more about the price of seastone. I don't want anyone else to get involved in that place. Carl's eyes were dark and exuded a faint aura. Obtaining Wanakuna's seastone mining land can not only make a lot of money. You can even use this condition to negotiate with the world government after the Valley of the Gods to get out, which is an extra trump card. Understood, Lord Carl. After receiving the order, the fishman turned around and left, reporting Carl's instructions to the seastone mining site, Rabbit Well. The fishmen far away in the Rabbit Well directly surrounded the entire Rabbit Well. From then on, the Rabbit Well could only enter but not exit. It seems I had to go there by myself. Carl touched his chin, his eyes as dark as paint. Chapter 132. The fight between No T and Odin because of the isolation of the country. Devil fruit is called a monster in Wano-kuni. Therefore, Wano-kuni is still an undeveloped virgin land, and there will be no shortage of devil fruit on it. Although Carl decided to go to the Sword Tomb, it was not the time yet. Clang! At this moment, the battle between Odin and No T in the distance had reached a fever pitch. I recognize your strength. Nuo T didn't expect that this ugly kid in front of him was actually pretty strong. Although he is still far behind him, his strength is pretty good for the younger generation. Because No T often competes with other teammates. Perhaps because he is a fishman and has practiced various boxing techniques with Carl's other men, his general strength is half a level stronger than those on the sea. So now Nuo T's vision has been raised very high. Odin's two-sword style, Taoyuan 10 fists. Odin did not expect that the strength of the big man in front of him was not ordinary. He tried his best, but it felt like the opponent was still able to do it with ease. So he quickly used the two-sword style he had recently learned. He waved the two swords entwined with armament haki, with the cross in front and the man behind, like meteors streaking across the sky. After sending out an extremely fast cross-flying slash, the person followed. Although he is not very skilled in using it now, in the original work, this move also left Kaido with two huge indelible scars. Interesting. 8th level fist collapse. No T became a little interested, but he didn't expect that the young man in front of him could bring him some surprises. The power of this move was completely different from the previous collisions, and it actually gave him a vague sense of danger. A punch blasted out, entangled with armament haki's power directly wiped out the sword energy in front of him, and then hit the oncoming double swords. I didn't expect that there are young people with such strength on this island. Davis, Brown and others commented on the sidelines. Click, every wonderful moment cannot be missed. Jennifer ran around the battlefield with a camera, clearly capturing every collision between them. Not interested in, Halil crossed his arms and yawned boredly. His vision is now higher than Nuo T's, and he can't look down on fighting at this level, nor can it arouse his passion. Boom! Odin and No T were in a stalemate for several minutes before being knocked into the air. In midair, Odin quickly adjusted his body and dived towards No T. Odin 2 tool style, Taoyuan Shirataki. Odin's eyes widened, his teeth clenched, and a hint of red flashed deep in his eyes. Swinging the twin swords wrapped around Conqueror's haki at high speed in midair, he slashed and dodged. Conqueror's haki entanglement? Halil exclaimed in shock. He didn't expect that the humble boy in front of him would be haunted by Conqueror's haki. A trace of excitement flashed in his eyes, but it was No T who was present now, and he felt a little pity. If I had known that this boy would be entangled by Conqueror's haki, I would have gone up. Is it too late? Seeing Brown's familiar look on his face, Halil began to grind his teeth. Don't worry, there will be plenty of time for us to fight each other in the future. Davis didn't want to see another battle between the two of them, so he looked at Halil with some comfort. As for Thompson, Hunter, and Smith, they did not stand nearby, but went into the kitchen behind to help. Because the necessary vigilance is essential. In terms of diet, you still need to have your own person to supervise it, which will be safer. Wano Kuni really has a lot of secrets. It looks like the guess may be true. Carl watched from the side, but he didn't expect Odin to be able to use Conqueror's Haki. Looking at it this way, they might really be a race that came down from the moon 800 years ago. Well, not good. Nuodi's face changed drastically, and he felt a fatal sense of crisis. Having seen the sparring between Carl and Lord Newgate, I naturally knew it was Conqueror's Haki entangling attack. His face became serious and he began to mutter. The Xuanzang of heaven and earth, the fundamental root of all things. I have cultivated extensively for hundreds of millions of kalpas to prove my magical powers. Inside and outside the three realms, only Tao is the most respected. There is golden light in my body, which reflects my body. First, the golden light spell is activated to cover the whole body, and then armament Haki is covered on the body surface. 8th level Fist Sky Cannon. Naturally, Nuo was no longer afraid of him. Instead, his cheeks turned red and he looked excited. He also wanted to experience the power of Conqueror's Haki entanglement. Buzz! The two of them clashed together, the world became silent, and an inexplicable wave of energy swept through the air. There was so much dust in the center that the two people in the middle of the battle could not be seen clearly. Hoo! Whoosh! Everyone began to run away, but unfortunately the banquet scene they had just arranged was blown away by the wave of air, resulting in them having to rearrange. But Fields and the others had their eyes widened, trying hard to see clearly what was going on in the middle of the battlefield. As expected, it is Conqueror's Haki, tick-tock. The smoke gradually dissipated, and everyone soon saw Noti and Odin on the battlefield. Noti stood there, his right hand hanging down. The two obvious knife marks on his right arm crossed together to form a cross, and blood was slowly flowing down. But Nuoti didn't feel depressed at all. Instead, the excitement on his face became more and more obvious. The stronger Conqueror's Haki gets, the more he wants to master this power. To be honest, I also want to experience the power of Conqueror's Haki. Fields didn't expect that a person like Noti, who was at the peak of Vice Admiral and Pseudo-Admiral strength, would be so harmed by someone who was obviously weaker than him. But Conqueror's Haki is not just for anyone who wants to have it. Ahem. Odin on the opposite side was not without any scars. Looking at the bloodline at the corner of his mouth, you could tell that he also suffered serious internal injuries. That's it. Noti looked at Odin, who had no strength to stand up. He didn't want to take advantage of others' danger. I just didn't expect that I would be able to experience the power of Conqueror's Haki during the fight with Tamada. It was obviously a worthwhile trip. Lord Odin, are you okay? Seeing the end of the battle between the two of them, Odin's retainers ran over quickly. First, he checked Odin's injury and then helped him up. I have nothing serious to do. Big man, let's fight again later. Odin stood up with the help of his retainers, but his face still had an unruly look. This time he has injured him, and his strength is still growing rapidly. The next battle won't be so easy. My name is not Big Man, my name is Noti. Looking forward to our next meeting. Odin looked like he didn't look like much. His right hand was covered with a golden light spell to prevent blood from flowing out. Noti's wound healing speed was obviously not limited either. In this short period of time, the wound has shown signs of healing. He walked towards the venue and waved his left hand backward. The party started soon. At the meeting, Carl simply chatted with the family patriarchs about the tasks they should do next. At the same time, at the meeting, he placed tens of thousands of fishmen in various villages in Wano Kuni to form an inspection team. As for the mining workers at Tujing, some of them were those who violated the new regulations and served their sentences. This group of people did not receive wages. Another group of people are people working on a cash-for-work basis. They are responsible for mining seastone and are paid. At the same time, he ordered a group of fishmen to comb the river outside Wano Kuni to create a safe channel. Chapter 133. Sword Tomb and Devil Fruit. I also want to go to sea. Odin, Kazuki Sukiyaki interrupted the excited Odin. Odin is still too young to understand the dangers involved. Guang Yu Sukiyaki's face instantly darkened. Why? Kazuki Sukiyaki naturally has his own plans. If Odin goes to sea with him, wouldn't he be treated as a hostage? But Odin doesn't think so. He wants to go to sea for more than a day or two. How could he let go of such a good opportunity before him? Sure, Karl didn't think that deeply, and with his strength, he really didn't need Odin as a so-called hostage. What's the big deal about going to sea, anyway? Odin himself will go to sea later, and he is already over 18 years old. If you go to sea early, you might be able to leave his mark. It may not be that easy to break away from his pirate group in the future. If he remembered correctly, Odin's strength should be pretty good. After all, he was the one who could leave scars on Kaido. It's a pity that he died young, seemingly at the age of 39. He left a mess, but Luffy helped him solve it. Father. Odin looked at Kazuki Sukiyaki. Just as Kazuki Sukiyaki was about to speak, he felt a sense of oppression coming on him. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Karl, whose expression remained unchanged, and was slightly shocked. He opened his mouth, but still didn't say what he wanted to say. Go ahead and be safe. He sighed helplessly. Because his expression changed so quickly, Odin didn't understand the meaning. Karl smiled softly and withdrew Haki, who was pressing on Kazuki Sukiyaki. Master Karl, can you tell us about the outside world? Looking at Odin's expectant look, and the silently pricked ears of everyone present, Karl picked up the wine glass and cleared his throat. It directly gives an overview of the current situation on the sea, the forces of pirates, marines, and the relationships between various kingdoms. So Rock's pirate is so powerful. Which one is better, Rock's pirate or marine? When Kazuki Odin asked, it happened to be what Kazuki Sukiyaki and the others also wanted to ask. If Rock's pirate had an evenly matched opponent, it would be a good thing for them now. Who knows? Karl didn't answer the question. Time passed quickly, and the next day came in the blink of an eye. Yesterday Kazuki Odin had decided to go to sea with Karl. Kazuki Sukiyaki saw that he couldn't stop it, so he agreed only out of desperation. However, he still sent several retainers to follow him, namely, Kinemon, Denjiro, Kikunocho, Kurozumi Kanjuro, Raizo, and Ashura Doji. These 6 people are the 6 retainers that Odin gathered during his travels in Wano Kuni. The plan was originally to teach the 6 of them to learn family etiquette, but unexpectedly the plan failed to keep up with the changes. Squeak, squeak, squeak. In the early morning, Karl had arrived at the Sword Tomb alone. I didn't expect that it's just an island, but it has 4 seasons. It is winter here all year round in Jianzhong, and there is heavy snow everywhere. Every time I walked by, there was a creaking sound. It's still a bit cold. Karl walked on the snow, clasped his hands together and took a deep breath, then watched the heat dissipate into the air. Recalling the first time he built a snowman in the snow as a child, his face was full of regret. Since I came to this world, I have never experienced winter. It looks like the pace will be accelerated, but the snow here can only make him feel slightly cool. He looked at the sword tomb in front of him and walked over step by step. There are no samurai swords collected by Gyukimaru on the sword mound of this period. Therefore, the entire sword tomb is full of coffins, but there are no dazzling array of swords. If I remember correctly, there should be 3 to 4 devil fruits in the sword tomb at this time. Gyukimaru is a fox who accidentally broke into the sword mound and ate the phantom beast species, the great entrance form. In the original work, Kaido's son Yamato also ate the dog fruit here, the phantom beast species, the big-mouthed true god form. These 2 fruits, according to various sources, are found in the sword tomb above Wano Kuni. There is even a Zone Phantom Beast new, but he seems to appear in the movie version and not much is said. I just don't know if I'm here anymore, finally reached. He looked at the valley in front of him with a smile on his face. He can get the devil fruit soon, and it's a phantom beast, so why can't it make him feel better? Oh, I saw it. He walked into the valley and after walking a few hundred meters, there was a temple at the front. The temple is not big and looks a bit shabby, probably because it has been exposed to wind and snow for a long time. Squeak. Pushing open the rotten wooden door, you will see several unfamiliar statues. There is a knife and 3 wooden boxes on the altar in front. Looking at the narrow wooden door in front of him, he quickly used his bone shrinking technique to control his body to 4 meters, and then he could barely get in. Isn't this the famous sword Chusui? First, he took down the famous sword from the shelf. When he pulled it out, he saw that the blade was all pitch black. This is a black sword that can only be formed by masters at the level of great swordsmen who use armament hockey to maintain their swords every day. The famous sword Shisui that was stolen by Gecko Moria must be placed here. Yes, it's mine. Although Carl doesn't use knives, it doesn't mean he doesn't collect them. And even though we have come, we cannot come in vain. After putting the famous sword Chusui into the system space, he rubbed his hands with a treasure-hunting expression on his face. Let me see which one to open first, then I'll decide it's you. From left to right, he opened the 3 wooden boxes respectively. Although there were chains on the wooden boxes, it was obviously not difficult for him. When the boxes are opened, each box contains a devil fruit. The devil fruit here was collected by the family members on Wano Kuni. They believed that this fruit was cursed and would bring misfortune to the family, so they placed it in this temple for purification. It's a pity that they don't know that this is the secret treasure of the sea, and the value of one outside is definitely beyond their imagination. System identification. Although Carl knew that these 3 devil fruits might contain phantom beast species. But I don't know which one it is, so it still needs to be systematically identified. 300 points will be deducted. Scanning. The system is becoming more and more user-friendly. A blue light was released in front of the transparent screen, sweeping the 3 devil fruits in front of me in sequence. After identification, the 3 devil fruits in front of me are Paramecia fruit, Paramecia everyone fruit phantom beast species great entrance form, and Zone dog fruit phantom beast species big mouth true god form. Nice, sure enough, this trip was not in vain. It was an advantage to come early, but he didn't expect that there were 2 phantom beast species waiting for him here. From this point of view, it should be the fox who accidentally ate the devil fruit in the great entrance form and turned into a human form to protect the temple. Then when Kaido came, he felt fear and was found in the form of Oguchi Shingo. As for the fruit of obedience, I don't know when Kinemon ate it. Take the fruits. I don't know what kind of talent can develop the Armor Warrior series of suits. Carl first brought 2 phantom beast species into the system space. Taking the fruit of obedience, he fell into deep thought, and then flew towards the Fengyue family's residence. Chapter 134. Search for devil fruit. How's it going? Not bad, right? Kazuki Oden looked expectantly at the people in front of him. He believes that they will be attracted by the taste of Oden. The specialties you have here are really good. Noti gave a thumbs up in agreement. It was also the first time for him to eat such food. I didn't expect that Oden, a simple-minded guy with well-developed limbs, could cook quite delicious Oden. The more delicious food, the better. Outside the Fugetsu family, Kazuki Oden is cooking Wanakuna's Oden for Noti and the others. In his eyes, Oden is a must-eat party food. Ha ha ha. Oden is one of Wanakuna's famous snacks. The taste won't be any worse. Hearing the praise from Nuoti and others, his face turned slightly red and he looked a little shy. But he doesn't suffer from stage fright, Lord Carl. Davis looked at Carl flying over from a distance and stood up. When Lord Carr went out in the morning, he told Davis about his past. This is to avoid accidents. Seeing Master Carl coming back, he knew that they were one step closer to going to sea. Master Carl, would you like to try Oden? Kazuki Oden tried his best to promote their Wano Kuni Oden to Carl. I just don't know if Mr. Carl can resist this temptation. I don't know, does your family have this? After Carl landed on the ground, he came to Kazuki Oden and handed him the devil fruit on his right hand. At the same time, I took over the Oden from Kazuki Oden. These families on the island should have more or less devil fruit. It's really good. It's been a long time since Carl had eaten Oden. Moreover, the Oden in One Piece world has a unique flavor. It tastes even more delicious than Blue Star. The Oden in One Piece world has no additives. It is purely natural food and is naturally more delicious than Blue Star's food. Yokai fruit? Of course, we have a few more in our family. But, Mr. Carl, do you want this? Looking at the fruit in Master Carl's hand, Kazuki Oden was a little puzzled. This fruit has been rumored to be a monster fruit in Wano Kuni. It was rumored that eating him would bring about various curses, so various families just collected them. There are only a few people who have actually eaten devil fruit. As the rulers of Wano Kuni, the Kazuki family naturally collected this fruit. Hearing that Master Carl needed it, he quickly passed the news to other families. After receiving the news, each family took the devil fruit from their own homes and placed it in front of Carl. Because these families collected devil fruit just to spread the curse and did not choose to eat it, but instead took advantage of Carl. I didn't expect there to be so many devil fruits in Wano Kuni. Clay was a little shocked. He had only collected a dozen devil fruits when he was developing the Cake Island Sea area. You must know that there are 56 unexplored islands in the Desert Sea area, and only a dozen of them have been collected. So he knew how difficult it was to collect devil fruit, but he didn't expect that a small Wano Kuni would have so many devil fruits. After Clay was shocked, his expression became solemn. He does know that devil fruit will be randomly generated only in the sea area where the devil fruit user dies. It seems like Wano Kuni has a lot of secrets. Yes, this trip was not in vain. Carl also agreed. He didn't expect to see so many devil fruits here. I originally thought that getting 3 devil fruits in the temple was pretty good. He didn't expect that these families could bring him surprises. If this is added to the 3 devil fruits of the Kurozumi family, there are already more than 10. System identification. Looking at the 6 devil fruits in front of him, Carl couldn't help but feel lucky. Fortunately, we came to Wano Kuni first, otherwise there might not be many left by the time Kaido comes. Points are being deducted. After the identification, the names of the fruits are Logia Sensen fruit, Paramecia dumpling fruit, Paramecia ripe fruit, Paramecia painting fruit, Zone Phantom Beast new, Paramecia puppet fruit. Carl didn't expect that the dense fruits of the original Green Bull would actually be in Wano Kuni. But it makes sense if you think about it carefully. The clothes Green Bull wore when he first appeared were completely consistent with Wano Kuni's clothes. That means that the place where he lived before joining Marine was Wano Kuni. Moreover, it was also shown in a small theater. It seems that Yi Xiao and Lu Niu are still friends. Do any of you want to eat? Carl looked at Davis, Clay and others in front of him. This is a rare opportunity for them. After all, there is not only Logia, but also these 3 phantom beast species. These are extremely powerful devil fruits. If it is developed well, it will be at the level of Emperor and Deputy. I'll forget it. Me too. Clay and Halil stood up one after another. They were fishmen and would never eat devil fruit. The side effects alone were unbearable for both of them. If a fishman leaves the sea, is he still a fishman? Forget it, I'm not interested in this. Kazuki Oden scratched his head. He didn't know why these people in front of him wanted to eat monster fruits. Aren't they afraid of curses? He didn't want to try the feeling of being cursed. Moreover, the ancestral motto of the Kazuki family seems not to allow them to eat devil fruit. We need a few people on the ship who haven't eaten devil fruit. A swordsman should be pure. If the hull of the boat breaks and water enters during the trip, I will have to be responsible for repairing the boat. As the invisible first officer, Davis naturally wouldn't want to eat the devil fruit. After his strength has been strengthened, he has already become a pseudo-admiral level master. And the expressions of Brown and Hunter are also obvious. Brown was afraid that he would waste his swordsmanship by relying too much on devil fruit. Hunter does need to work on the bottom of the boat sometimes, and it's not that nice of a devil fruit. Carl shook his head with a wry smile, never expecting that in the eyes of the world, he would not be able to give away the precious devil fruit in his hands. Not to mention Noti and Fields who are far away on Cake Island. The 2 martial arts idiots will definitely not think about eating devil fruit. What about you, Thompson? If there was anyone here who wanted to eat devil fruit, it was Thompson. Because Thompson himself knows that his strength is seriously lagging behind among everyone. He was also worried about this matter. I really want one in my heart. It's just that I didn't make any contribution. Thompson actually seemed a little inferior because he really failed to bring any effective help to Carl. So although he himself wanted to eat devil fruit, he was always embarrassed to ask. Chapter 135. Subdue the Fruit Owner. Okay, Thompson, everyone is treated equally here, just pick one. Carl didn't expect Thompson because of this. To be honest, he never thought that his men would have such thoughts. Logically speaking, this shouldn't be the case, he quickly reflected. He is usually quite approachable, but why does he put so much pressure on the crew? I'm not such a mean captain, pick one. By the way, there are these three. These three were also found on Wano Kuni. Carl also knew what it meant to buy horse bones with 1,000 pieces of gold, so he placed the 3 devil fruits he found in the sword tomb. If he does not treat his subordinates sincerely, there is no guarantee that his subordinates will not have any dissatisfaction in the future. So this kind of thinking must be cut off from the source. He didn't want to deal with his traitors personally when the time came. Nani? Clay's shocked eyes seemed to bulge out. The others had similar expressions. You must know that devil fruit is very rare on the sea. It is rare to see 9 devil fruits on one island. I didn't expect that this little Wano Kuni actually has 9 devil fruits. Davis was the first to recover. At the same time, he looked at Carl, but he didn't know how Lord Carl knew about Wano Kuni. You know, Lord Carl initially ordered Clay to search for Wano Kuni, which shows that Lord Carl has some understanding of Wano Kuni. No, strictly speaking, there are 12 Wano Kuni, yes. Before everyone could finish being shocked, Carl said something that shocked everyone even more. You should have the impression that the new Kurozumi siblings in Rock's Pirate are also from Wano Kuni. One of them is a clone fruit ability owner, the other is a barrier fruit owner, and they even have a phantom beast in the form of Yamata no Orochi. So, among everyone, Davis was the first to wake up from the shock. It turns out that Lord Carl likes Wano Kuni not only because it is rich in sea stone, but also because it has more than one devil fruit. From this point of view, Wano Kuni and his party are really worth their while. Yes, I want the Kurozumi siblings' devil fruit too. After all, he is a phantom beast. Giving Yamata no Orochi fruit to Kurozumi no Orochi is such a waste. Logically speaking, every devil fruit that has developed to the point of awakening will not be any less powerful. Who would have thought that Kurozumi Orochi would actually develop the zone phantom beast species Yamata Orochi into such a ghostly form? The 8 heads were completely used to save lives, and none of the abilities of the phantom beast species were developed. What a waste! I will order my fishmen to investigate the Kurozumi brothers and sisters and try to find the place where they collect devil fruit. Since Lord Carl has already said that he wants the phantom beast, Clay will naturally try his best to get it. And he was not idle during this period. The Kurozumi brothers and sisters were not very strong. As long as you find where the devil fruit is stored, you can grab it directly without worrying about their revenge. If they want to take action, they can solve it together. Just pick one, you don't have to worry about it this time. Looking at the hesitant Thompson in front of him, Carl urged. It's just a devil fruit, which really means nothing to him now. He currently has 11 in the system space, and adding the 9 in front of him, there are 20. This does not include the 17 devil fruits given to Linlin. Unexpectedly, in less than 2 years since he came to the pirate world, he had collected nearly 40 devil fruits. And it's not just Chinese cabbage, there are nearly 10 top-quality devil fruits alone. I have to say that he has been favored by good luck for a long time. Thank you, Lord Carl. Thompson looked at Carl and nodded solemnly. The next moment, he walked forward, closed his eyes, picked one at random, picked it up and stuffed it into his mouth. Vomit. Click. Thompson was no novice. He stuffed the devil fruit into his mouth and chewed it as fast as he could. After the fruit was swallowed into the stomach, a nauseating feeling came from the mouth. But the symptoms of retching are still unavoidable. His whole face was flushed red, and even bile was vomited out. At this time, he only felt a burning sensation in his stomach. Ha ha ha. Smith laughed heartily on the sidelines. The reason he laughed was because Thompson actually ate the whole devil fruit. Devil fruit actually only takes one bite. Unexpectedly, even a person like Thompson, like him, stupidly ate every one. Jennifer did not hesitate and quickly recorded Thompson's appearance with a camera. From now on, it may even become evidence against Thompson. Is it really so unpalatable? Noti scratched his head beside him. He didn't like devil fruit in the first place. Because if you eat it, you will have a weakness of fear of seawater. Therefore, he feels that this is of no use to him who pursues the supremacy of force. Instead, it will leave him with weaknesses. And looking at Thompson's expression, he didn't want to eat it even more. He didn't want to experience such a disgusting thing. But is this thing really so unpalatable? Water? Looking at Thompson's appearance, Davis quickly handed over the kettle on the side. Although Davis didn't understand this feeling, since he could spit out the bile, it didn't taste good after all. After Thompson took it, he raised his head and poured all the water from the kettle into his stomach without saying a word. I finally came back to life. I never want to experience this taste again. You want to experience devil fruit a second time. If you eat too, you will explode and die. Do you know? Although Thompson seemed to be joking, Carl couldn't take it as a joke and had to make the importance of this matter clear to them. What if one day someone accidentally takes a second pill? Wouldn't his life be in vain? How about it? Do you feel the power of the devil fruit you ate? He ate too quickly at first, and Carl didn't even see which one he was talking about. But after careful inspection, he didn't expect that the devil fruit he ate happened to be a fruit. Now, he only hopes that Thompson can fully unleash the power of the fruit. After all, that is the Emperor Shaw. He didn't believe that anyone could resist the temptation of Emperor Shaw. It seems like you can change into clothes? Thompson has never seen Armor Warrior, so naturally he would not have such an idea. He just picked up a leaf on the ground and turned it directly into a piece of clothing on his body. There was a regretful expression on his face. Wouldn't it be true if this devil fruit's ability was just to turn items into clothes? The more he thought about it, the more he felt at a loss. Chapter 136. Redfield's Harvest. The upper limit of this devil fruit is definitely beyond your imagination. Carl didn't want to see Thompson not paying attention to this devil fruit. If Thompson didn't develop this devil fruit properly, wouldn't he not be able to experience the majesty of the Emperor Man? What did Lord Carl say? Is there something else about this devil fruit that I haven't thought of? What Thompson didn't expect was that there would be a turning point with Mr. Carl. He really couldn't think of any development direction for this devil fruit. Because the moment he ate this devil fruit, he felt the power of this devil fruit. Apart from being able to transform into various clothes and decorations, he really couldn't think of any other abilities. Did he really forget some details? I can't tell you the details of the development direction of devil fruit at the moment. But don't worry, I will take you to see it after the Institute invents it as soon as possible. For those who have never seen Armored Warriors, he really can't find any description for the moment. Did you tell him to conjure up a belt, and then summon a pair of armor? That would be too abstract. If the guidance goes astray, it would be a big problem. Fortunately, a TV shouldn't be anything complicated. As long as it's left to Vegapunk, it should be developed quickly. When the time comes, some technical staff will be hired to directly film the original animations, movies, TV series and other series, which will surely be a big hit in the world of pirates. And this should be considered an alternative cultural invasion. This can also solve the problem of Thompson's devil fruit ability. By then, the upper limit of this devil fruit will be as exaggerated as seen in movies and TV shows. Maybe we can even see a legion of armored warriors. Of course, Lawyer Zhang's Golden Armored Warriors is also good, but I don't know if the Super Beast Arms series will work. Really? Then I look forward to this day coming soon. I will explore this devil fruit's abilities. Thompson didn't think Carl was lying to him, because there was no need for a person of Carl's strength to lie to him. After learning that this devil fruit was not that simple, he regained his confidence. When Carl saw Thompson regaining his confidence, he didn't say anything, but directly collected all the remaining devil fruit. If you want to awaken the fruit of obedience, you may really need to create the entire Armored Warrior series. Even the moment Emperor Man was created was probably when devil fruit awakened. It seems that the mission to Wano Kuni is almost completed. Carl expressed satisfaction with the experience. Not only did he get the rabbit well where Wano Kuni's sea stone is mined, but he also got 9 devil fruits. This visit to Wano Kuni can be said to be perfect. Moreover, the mission went smoothly. Could it be that he was favored by luck now? Then are we going to see now, Lord Carl? Kazuki Oden spoke hurriedly on the side. He couldn't wait. Going to sea has always been one of his wishes. Being able to go to sea reasonably now has become the happiest thing for him. He has been looking forward to going to sea for a long time, and even his luggage has been packed. Certainly, Clay, you and Khalil stay here. If there is any situation, please contact me through the phone bug. Once things here are on track, you two can leave. It's not time for him to recuperate yet, so Clay and Khalil can't stay in Wano Kuni for long. Who knows what will happen next moment, so he must keep his men's power at its peak. After Carl finished explaining, he stood up first. Davis and others followed behind. Master Carl, walk slowly. Kazuki Sukiyaki watched Odin follow Carl away, and a trace of unbearable flashed in his heart. People from other families also formed a team and escorted Carl and his party to the seaport. Carl stood on the boat and nodded towards Clay in the distance. Set sail. Following Carl's order, Thompson directly raised the pirate flag, and the entire ship gradually moved towards the sea. Clay, Halil, and some of the fishmen team silently watched their departure from behind. Oh ho ho, is this the sea? On the way down from Wano Kuni, Kazuki Odin didn't stop yelling. Unexpectedly, Wano Kuni is still several hundred meters away from the sea. Kazuki Odin looked at this fast-flowing river and finally understood why Wano Kuni had always believed in seclusion. Because normal ships cannot get out at all. Huh, bumpkin. When the time comes, I'll show you something new and exciting. Noti hugged his arms beside him, saying that he wanted to take Odin with him to experience men's projects. What is there to do in that little place in Wano Kuni? The outside world must be dazzling to him. What kind of mermaid, leopard-eared girl, etc. Wanakuna's matter is fine, it's come to an end. I just don't know if things are going well with Redfield. Just as Carl and his party were heading towards Beehive Island, Redfield had also arrived at Sleepy Hollow Town. Fresh sea fish, is this fresh to you? An aunt who was buying groceries looked at the belly-up fish in the bucket and rolled her eyes. I'm a fish seller, how can I tell if it's new or not? Your fish is already floating, how do you know it's still fresh? I am a fish seller, how can I still sell you dead fish? Redfield saw this scene when he arrived at the port of Sleepy Town, but it did not affect his progress. He quickly crossed the bustling port in front of him. It should be right here. He looked at the map in his hand and nodded. This is clearly what is drawn on the map. This was originally a mysterious village. It was rumored that there was a monster in this village called a vampire. As people in the village continued to move away, the village gradually became deserted. The legend of vampires should be the devil fruit. Redfield has seen various races in the New World over the years, but he has never heard of the vampire race. But he has heard of Zone, the phantom beast species, vampire form. Redfield walks into the deserted village while exuding his unusual observation haki. Soon, a huge cave was sensed under the well in the center of the village. Found it, a smile flashed at the corner of Field's mouth, and then he ran quickly in the direction of the well. After arriving in front of the well, he jumped directly. Although there is a dark space under the well, this does not affect the already successful Redfield of observation haki at all. He walked further and further into the cave, and soon came to an abandoned hall. The style of the hall is a bit like a villager's cellar. In the middle of this hall is an old table with a wooden box locked on it. Tap tap tap. When I walked to the wooden box, I felt something was wrong just as I was about to open it. The next moment, he picked up the box and ran outside suddenly. There was a loud noise from the cave behind. When he ran out of the well, the village in front of him had sunk several meters deep. So close, if it had been any later, he might have been buried underground. Moreover, the top of the cave was entirely covered with rocks, and he didn't want to try what it felt like to be pressed down by rocks. But fortunately, he has already taken out the devil fruit. Is this the bat fruit, vampire form? Redfield didn't hesitate and ate him directly. Chapter 137. The owner of the bat fruit of the phantom species. Redfield is indeed a ruthless person. After eating devil fruit, there was no obvious change in his face. But looking at the corners of his mouth that twitched slightly, it was obvious that there was no change at all. Although I knew devil fruit was unpalatable, I didn't expect it to be so unpalatable. I almost couldn't even manage my expression well. Haha, is this the power of the phantom beast species? It is indeed one of the top devil fruits. Redfield stretched out his right hand and felt the power emerging from his body. You must know that his strength is already at the admiral level, But he didn't expect that this devil fruit could actually take his strength to a small level. To be honest, he had underestimated devil fruit's ability before. But isn't this side effect a bit strong? He frowned slightly, because he felt like he wanted to suck blood now. He turned his head and looked at the town not far away with his red eyes. The next moment, his will regained the upper hand and he shook his head suddenly. Dissipated the desire in my heart. I'm Redfield, how could I be defeated by this mere side effect? I don't know, is the blood of Sea Kings okay? After all, the current Redfield is not the big pirate in the original work, so he still has a little compassion for civilians and will not massacre civilians casually. But in the world of pirates, pirates killing civilians are the mainstream. People like Whitebeard, Redhead, and Luffy are completely special cases. Under his careful perception, the ability of the bat fruit can actually increase the growth of his observation haki invisibly. For the first time in a long time, he experienced the progress of observation haki. It has been a long time since he developed observation haki to read minds. He even thought that his observation haki had already reached its peak and could no longer improve. It seems that Carl is right, this fruit is indeed destined to me. The next moment, devil fruit's ability was activated, and two huge black wings appeared on its back. These were exactly two enlarged versions of bat wings. At this moment, a mysterious color came from Redfield. He transforms into a giant bat. Call out. He controlled the wings and took off on the spot. He was not very skilled at the beginning. It was just flying at low altitude in the woods, but this was also his first experience of flying. It's normal to be unskilled. After just a few minutes of running in, you can already master the direction and speed of flight. It's just that the woods on the ground have become topsy-turvy. It seems that no matter what, it is the tree that suffers. I have obtained the Phantom Beast bat fruit. The strength was indeed beyond his expectation. Now that the mission was completed, it was time to return. He took out the eternal pointer of Cake Island from his arms, and after looking for the direction, his body turned into a black light and rushed towards the sky. With Redfield's physical strength, he can fly all the way to Cake Island. And the small sky island Visalia is almost approaching Cake Island at this time. Should I keep this thing or eat it? On Sky Island, Borsalino looked at the thing his mother left him, devil fruit. What he saw on Sky Island told him that this thing was the legendary treasure of the sea, devil fruit. He doesn't know if anyone will be jealous of his devil fruit once he reaches his destination. He reached out and held the devil fruit in front of him, observing it carefully. I just don't know, what is the ability of this devil fruit? Looking at the yellow patterned devil fruit in front of him, Borsalino fell into deep thought. Some of devil fruit's abilities are truly unsightly, not to mention not helpful at all, but rather leaving them with weaknesses. Dong dong dong, Borsalino, come out for training. The trainer saw no response from inside and thought something was wrong. This Borsalino was requested by Mr. Carl himself. If something goes wrong if it's sent to the Cake Island, he can't afford it. Click, inside, Borsalino heard the sound at the door and was about to put devil fruit away, but the next second he heard the sound of the door opening. I felt bad, this devil fruit could not be seen by others. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to keep this devil fruit. This was the last thing his mother left him, so it seemed there was only one way. Vomit. Right away, in desperation, he ate the fruit in front of him in one bite. If he wasn't pressed for time, he really wouldn't want to eat this devil fruit. Okay, then come up and follow me. The trainer breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Borsalino walking out of the door. Then he walked to the next room expressionlessly. Regardless of his nausea, Borsalino quickly got up and followed the trainer to the training ground outside. Logia, sparkling fruit. On the way out, the name of the devil fruit came to my mind, as well as how to develop and use it. Unexpectedly, his mother would leave him a Logia devil fruit. This is really hot Thai pants. 10 days have passed since Carl left Wano Kuni. During these 10 days, there was a lot of construction work everywhere in Wano Kuni, with new hospitals, schools, pubs, tea houses and other buildings. The entire layout is dotted, covering the entire Wano Kuni. If you look down from a high altitude, you will see an 8 trigrams array magnified many times. Of course, this 8 trigrams array does not have any special effects, it is just for good looks. At the same time, he secretly bribed some of the craftsmen. Let them learn their crafting skills while crafting items such as sea stone handcuffs. Sea stone, as one of the necessities in the pirate world. The origin is only found in Wano Kuni, so its price is not that high. Of course Clay knew Lord Carl's purpose of coming to Wano Kuni, so he left those buildings under the care of the fishmen. His main goal is Rabbit Well. He needs to mine sea stone and make finished products as quickly as possible. Only in this way can he be easy to do business with. In a secret room in Wano Kuni, there is no light in the secret room. Now that Rock's pirate is in the spotlight, let's wait for the opportunity first, that's fine. Well, this is a TV, right? In the research room next to the Cake Island, Vegapunk looked at the videophone bug, played the recorded video, and nodded with satisfaction. What's the use of this thing? Vegapunk doesn't understand. In his opinion, if it is to play videos, just use the videophone bug. Why build a separate TV set? He doesn't understand the true beauty of television. Sir Carl, I have already made the TV set you need. Really? Good job, Vegapunk. Carl didn't expect that Vegapunk would actually build the TV in just 10 days. It is indeed a brain that is 500 years ahead of the world. Just one click. Lin, help me recruit some drama talent. I need to sing a good show. Chapter 138. First hearing about the Valley of Gods. What you two said is true, of course, Captain. Beehive Island. Rox felt a little surprised when he heard Kurozumi Higarashi's words. You must know that he has wanted to find the Valley of the Gods for more than a day or two, but he never knew the exact address. He didn't expect that Kurozumi Higurashi had actually been there. Can you still remember where the address is? Rox still doesn't believe it. How did Kurozumi Higurashi know the address of the Valley of Gods? Certainly, I had the honor to go to the Valley of the Gods before, and it was to deliver slaves to those celestial dragons. Kurozumi Higurashi quickly recounted his story. I was indeed lucky enough to go into the Valley of the Gods with someone from the slave-catching group before. It was magnificent, and there were 6 devil fruits placed on the high platform, which were very tempting. Ever since they learned that Rox wanted to know the address of the Valley of the Gods, the brother and sister couldn't wait to join the Rox pirate. They wanted to tell him the news, but they were fishing in troubled waters. Go in and get the top devil fruit to help the Kurozumi family restore their country. As for the consequences of Rox, it is not within their scope of consideration. It can be said that the snipe and the clam are fighting, and the fisherman wins. Maybe the phantom beast species Yamata no Orochi in the original work may be a devil fruit on the Valley of Gods. Captain Rox, the celestial dragons hold sacrifices in the Valley of the Gods every 4 years. The next time will be 1484. This sentence is not wrong. The celestial dragons hold sacrificial activities in the Valley of the Gods, which is indeed held every 4 years. The last time they entered was in early 1480. At that time, there were still 3 pillars on the sea, and Carl had not yet traveled to the world of pirates. Ha 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 ha. This is really great news. Tell me, what do you two want? Rox is not a fool. Kurozumi Higurashi said this, and he must have a request in his heart. When the brother and sister came, Rox had the feeling that they had an ulterior motive. But in the face of absolute strength, plans are of no concern. Rox believes that he is the person with absolute strength. We want to pick a devil fruit, Kurozumi Higurashi said cautiously. They want to fulfill their desire to restore the country through the devil fruit in the Valley of the Gods. But their own strength is too weak, and it is undoubtedly a fantasy to get the devil fruit. I happened to learn by chance that Rox wanted to know the location of the Valley of the Gods. And with Rox's character, it goes without saying that his purpose of finding the Valley of the Gods is needless to say. Ha ha ha, of course, absolutely fine. When that day comes, I will allow you to choose a magic fruit. There are only a handful of people who can negotiate terms with Rox and survive. I just don't know if they have the life to get the devil fruit. Thank you, Captain Rox. Okay, let's get on with it. Kurozumi Higurashi and Kurozumi Semimaru bowed repeatedly. The two looked down at each other and quickly walked out of the conference room. Rox clenched his fists after watching the two people walk out of the conference room. Celestial dragons, is this Cake Island? Ganfuer and others operated Sky Island to slowly land on the shore of Cake Island, and ascended the elevator from Sky Island. Looking at the huge cake in the center of the island, it aroused discussions among the children. This was the first time they saw a cake-like building. "This is where you will lie from now on, go down. Lin Lin is waiting for them below." I had long heard Carl talk about the talents of these children, so I couldn't help but take notice of them. After training them well, they will become the backbone of their pirate group in the future. The first person to come down the stairs was Ganfuer, followed by Borsellino and others. Cake Island really lives up to its name. Ganfu led the way, and it was his first time coming to Cake Island. Well, are you Ganfu?" Lin Lin looked at the leader and guessed that he should be Ganfuer, the person in charge of Sky Island. Sky Island is an essential part of their future plans. With Sky Island, if they travel to the Four Seas in the future, or even the first half of the Grand Line, they can easily hide from Marine's detection. Just like Op Fruit, if the four emperors are able to avoid Marine's eyes and come to North Blue, then the ownership of Op Fruit really has to be discussed separately. Even the convenience of Sky Island will help them occupy most of the New World territory after the war and provide them with a certain degree of mobility. "I've met Master Lin Lin." Ganfu had already seen the true face of Charlotte Lin Lin through the reward order. And among women over 8 meters tall, there should be only Charlotte Lin Lin in the New World. Feeling the aura that Charlotte Lin Lin inadvertently exuded from her body, Ganfu felt suffocated. He thought to himself that he was indeed a great pirate as strong as Lord Carl. His strength was truly unfathomable, and his aura alone made him feel surrendered. Vegapunk, trouble. Lin Lin first looked at Vegapunk on the right. If you want to allow all Sky Islands to move freely, it would be better to let Vegapunk research it. After all, it's better for me to have something for myself than for my father to have something for my mother. If I don't study it thoroughly, I won't even be able to control the Sky Island group in my hands if I am betrayed one day. Understood, Master Lin Lin. Vegapunk took his 2 assistants, Quinn and Geisa, to Sky Island. Start researching, why is Sky Island able to freely control the technology on the sea? Perispero, Ganfu, please come this way. After receiving instructions from Charlotte Lin Lin, Perispero led Ganfu and others to the building next to Cake Island. This building complex looks antique and is built according to the style of the ancient Blue Star Courtyard. It is specially used to house his core members and these highly gifted children. Within the mouth, Borsellino pushed up his glasses and looked at the giant fishmen that flashed by from time to time, with a lewd smile flashing across his face. This was also the first time he saw a race other than humans. Except for skin color and appearance, other features are similar to humans, with 1 head, 2 hands, and 2 legs. If I'm not mistaken, the people on this island seem very kind. Yi Xiao is born with the ability to read minds, but it could only read the surface. According to his perception, whether it was a fish man or a human, it didn't seem to have that annoying smell. Ha! 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 The group of people gradually walked into the building complex with Perispero. Passing by a large square, there were countless children practicing. 5 Elements Boxing? 5 Elements Boxing is a basic boxing technique that everyone can practice for free. You should have practiced it too. Perispero heard the question of the child next to him and gave the answer. This is also one of his jobs, to make these people familiar with the living environment on the island as soon as possible. It means there are more advanced boxing techniques. Although Sakazuki is still young, he already has some sense of martial supremacy. Although 5 Elements Boxing was good, he always felt that it was not that lethal. Now that I know that there seems to be a more advanced boxing technique, I am naturally a little excited. Of course, you need to redeem it with your contribution points. The group followed the direction of Perispero's finger and saw the large screen in the distance. Chapter 139. Contribution Value List. What is this? Bravo! Because they had just walked to the side of the building, they could not see the screen in the center for the first time. When they came to the center, they saw a transparent screen rolling in front of them. This large screen is also a product of Vegapunk Labs, and it simply scrolls some information on the large screen. Although it does not have a strong technological content, it can be more intuitive and let everyone see how to obtain contribution points. And there are lists like this everywhere on Cake Island, but the one here is just a little bigger. Find a Logia reward point of 100,000. Finding a fantasy beast will reward you with 100,000 points. Teach newbies to practice 5 elements boxing, 100 points each time. Borsellino stopped in his tracks when he saw one of the items below. Oh, I see. Borsellino became a little excited when he thought about why Ganfor taught them training. It turns out that one training session is worth 100 points. You must have trained them dozens of times along the way. The points should be in the thousands, right? Do they also have a share of this point? Borsellino tilted his head and looked at Ganfor. Ganfu felt the gaze coming from behind and scratched his head. Make a fist with your right hand and put it to your mouth. Ahem. Of course, I didn't hide it secretly. Ganfu was still a little guilty. After saying this, he turned his head and did not look at them again. He knew how talented the children in front of him were, and he didn't want to be targeted in any way in the future. Especially the Borsellino in front of him, as well as Yishao and Sakazuki behind him. Their talents are even more astonishing. In just a few days, he has mastered the use of 5 elements boxing. If he hadn't only taught them for 15 days, maybe in another 15 days, he might not be able to defeat the 3 of them together. No wonder Master Carl is so concerned. It turns out that everyone is so pervert. Also, let me teach you, isn't it normal for me to get points? You don't know how. Having said this, Ganfu seemed to be full of confidence again. Although he was a little lazy in the process, he still taught what he needed to teach. It's impossible to find fault with this matter alone. Cut. Huh. I didn't expect you to be such a person. Borsellino was obviously not a person who gave in, and was thinking about how to plot against Ganfor in the future. Ganfu shuddered violently, as if something terrifying had enveloped him. He quickly looked at Perispero in front of him. By the way, what is your name for this brother? Is it possible to move forward? Perispero didn't have time to listen to their chat. He stopped here just to give them a rough idea of how to obtain points on the contribution list. So he nodded and led the way. Ganfu seemed to be running away and quickly followed. Looking at the Borsellino people who were looking at them more and more unkindly, he didn't want to stay here anymore. The 2 people in Borsellino looked at each other and rolled their eyes, obviously thinking of some bad idea. Several people passed through building complexes one after another and finally arrived at their destination. This courtyard will be yours to live in from now on. You can each choose a room. If you have any needs, you can ask the housekeeper directly. This is the housekeeper Ahu. Standing in front of the courtyard, Perispero introduced the Tiger Shark Man in front of them. After that, this Tiger Shark Man was also responsible for managing the maintenance of their yard. Hello adults, I am Ahu. Ahu kept his posture very low, because he knew that he was just a butler. Moreover, this group of people was specially given special instructions by Mr. Carl. He might become a big shot in the future, but he didn't dare to offend. Ahu will explain the next thing to you. Perispero nodded slightly to everyone, and then walked in the direction he came from. Ahu brought everyone into the attic and introduced the layout of the attic. The attic in the courtyard is a bit like a larger courtyard house, with 2-story attics in the innermost part and on the left and right sides. Each side can easily accommodate 20 people. This is also their next residence. By the way, what's going on with that contribution list? Ganfor has not seen this list yet, but he has to say that this list aroused his curiosity. He wanted to take on the task above in exchange for higher-level boxing skills. Others also looked at Ahu, wanting to get an answer from Ahu. Is such that list was researched by Master Vegapunk in the past few days. It seems that I was researching some kind of TV set at the beginning, and I accidentally found it. Ahu pondered for a moment and led everyone to the pavilion in the courtyard. After seeing everyone seated, he stood there and began to tell the reasons for the list. It turns out that this list first appeared just to collect some experimental materials needed for Vegapunk and some simple tasks. But he was discovered by Lord Linlin inadvertently. So I posted information about searching for various devil fruits, famous knives, and even treasures. Over time, it evolved into what it is now. Then how to accept the mission. What Ganfuor is most concerned about is how to accept the mission. As for where this screen came from, Tool. Not so concerned with what the body can do. After you choose the mission, go to the Qilin Hall, which is the huge square in the middle. After entering, give the task you want to take to the recorder, and then you can be responsible for searching for things. Of course, you can also directly search for the items posted above, but if the task above is cancelled after you search, you will not get the reward. Ahu shrugged. Obviously no one had done the second method. Understood. What, I have something to go out for. Before Bolsolino and others could react, Ganfor had already stood up and ran out of the attic. He was going to complete the task. Because after exchanging Bajiquan, he fell in love with the Golden Light curse again. But the contribution points of the Golden Light spell are not ordinary, it costs a full 100,000 points. This huge amount of points is comparable to a Logia devil fruit. How do we arrange it? Sakazuki doesn't care about the points issue now, because they are not strong enough to go to sea casually. What he is most concerned about now is what they need to do and what they can do on the island. You are very smart. Ahu didn't expect that the kid in front of him could actually ask this question to the point. It really impressed him a bit. After choosing a room, you can decide your own daily routine. Training will be conducted at the training ground from 2 to 5 p.m. The rest of the time is up to you. As long as you don't make cakes, you can go anywhere you want. Because Sakazuki and his group are talented enough, they only need to carry out daily training and leave the rest of the time to themselves to avoid growing crooked. After all, in the original work, Borsalino, Yishao, and Sakazuki, after they grew up, became full-fledged admiral-level powerhouses. He didn't want them to fail to reach the strength in the original work because of overthrowing their talents. Chapter 140. Recruiting Roger, finally back to Cake Island. Yes, if nothing big happens next, we may not need to go to sea in a short time. Looking at the Cake Island in the distance, Carl had already decided that if it was not a big deal, he would not sell cakes unless necessary. Because next, we must prepare for the start of the Battle of the Valley of the Gods 3 years later. Not only must manpower be sent to monitor John's whereabouts, but the strength of his men must also be raised to the next level as much as possible. Because there is no time to rest after the battle in the Valley of the Gods, and the chaotic battle in the New World will come directly. If it is strong enough, it can rule most of the New World territory. If you are weak, you will give up your territory. Even if his own strength is strong enough, sometimes the power cannot be maintained only by his own strength. It is easy to conquer a country, but it is difficult to defend it. Linlin. When Carl and his party returned to Cake Island, they saw Linlin waiting at the port. Linlin had already received Carl's letter on the island, so he waited on the shore early. Carl and Ganfer's group happened to arrive at Cake Island on the same day, one after the other. After Carl got off the boat, he hugged Linlin who was coming towards him. You're still pregnant, so you don't need to come to the port, understand? It's the same as waiting inside. He carefully supported Linlin. She had been pregnant for several months and her belly was slightly pregnant. It looks like we need to avoid it. Brown jumped off the boat first, held his head in his hands, and walked past Carl without changing his expression. F***ku. Carl smiled, and the next moment he stepped forward and kicked Brown to the ground. When you have a new love, forget about the old love. After Brown got up from the ground, he looked at Carl with a resentful look. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Davis and the others couldn't hold it in and laughed. Everyone go away. Seeing everyone making noises, he waved his hands repeatedly, and then led Linlin towards the Cake Island. Seeing that there was no excitement to see, everyone gradually dispersed. Linlin looked at the cautious Carl and said helplessly, "Don't be so careful. Ganfor and the others have arrived. Now that Ganfor and the others are here, it seems that he is going to take a look at Borsalino, Sakazuki and others during this period. But now, nothing is more important than Linlin." Carl thought for a moment and said, "It's okay, don't worry. Roger, I'm here to invite you to join Rock's Pirate. The waters near New World Dressrosa." Here, Newgate intercepted Roger and his party who had just sailed from Dressrosa. Roger and the others looked at Newgate with unkind eyes. Rocks? Roger looked at Newgate in front of him unmoved. Naturally, they had heard of Rock's Pirate. But after hearing it, he turned around and looked at Rayleigh, Jabba and the others. "I won't join." Newgate knew that things would not be that simple and had been prepared for it. Gu la 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 la. Then let's see if you have the strength and say no. The message Newgate received was that if the Roger pirates didn't join Rox, they would be destroyed. Empty shock. Click. Newgate threw his cloak on the deck with his left hand, stepped back slightly with his left foot, and suddenly shot out his right hand. The next moment, the space in front of him exploded like shards of glass. The violent energy waves hit the Roger pirates. God avoids. Sensing Newgate's power, Roger had not encountered such a powerful opponent for a long time. An excited smile appeared on his face. Boom. Wow, wow. After the two energies collided, the sea surface began to become rough, and as water columns rose into the sky, it started to rain lightly. Gu la 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 la. You have my approval. Newgate didn't expect that Roger in front of him would be haunted by Conqueror's Haki. You know, even they have just learned it. Now that this is the case, things start to get interesting. Kong Yunki. Newgate usually uses force to defeat magic, swinging a huge cloud blade around Conqueror's Haki, leaping up out of thin air and slashing at Roger and his group. Since the opponent's strength is not bad, he doesn't have to hold back. If you are strong, just pretend he has never been here. If you are weak, just die in this sea. God avoids. Roger also didn't expect that Newgate would be haunted by Conqueror's Haki. A red light flashed in his eyes, and he stepped on the deck with both feet. As the ship sank, his body jumped up out of thin air and faced him head-on, giving a powerful answer to Newgate's attack. Buzz. Look, their weapons are not touching. Indeed, their weapons did not touch. As Roger's crew members exclaimed, everyone turned their attention to the weapons of the two men. It can be clearly seen that a red energy ball is produced in the middle of the weapon. The sky is cracking. Jabba and the others opened their mouths wide, watching the sky in the distance slowly split open, in shock. To be honest, this was also the first time they saw Roger attack with all his strength from the beginning. I didn't expect the momentum to be so huge. Laylee's right hand was on the western sword, ready to strike at any time. The fun begins. Newgate felt Roger's strength, and knew that today might be in vain. But now that I'm here, I have to have fun no matter what. Gu la 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 la. Ha 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 ha. As the two people's laughter ended, their figures kept colliding in the air. Clang, clang, clang. Dang dang dang. Originally there were some clouds in the sky as a foil, but they dissipated in an instant under the violent impact. The violent energy waves swept across the air mercilessly. Big news. Not far away, there was a news reporter who took a picture of the battle in front of him. He was a reporter trained by Moore Morris. The first and second batch of reporters were all trained by Moore Morris himself. After training them, let them go to various parts of the world to collect various news events. At the same time, the information is transmitted through the videophone. It is this method that allows news of the world to be sold to every household in the entire sea. Although News of the World has only been around for a short time, it has firmly occupied more than 50% of the news on the sea. The role of these reporters and those homing pigeons is essential. Newgate and Roger soon saw a desert island not far away from the air. The two had the same goal and slowly approached the deserted island during the fight. Newgate's crew and Rayleigh and others discovered that their respective captains were fighting farther away, and they quickly chased after them in their ships. Soon they came to the desert island. The strange thing is that since arriving on the desert island, there has been no friction between Newgate's crew and Rayleigh and others. Instead, the two groups stayed quietly and did not interfere with each other. It's just that both groups looked at it angrily. Chapter 141. Newgate's kind reminder. Hello, Newgate. How about joining us? After the battle, Roger, his team, and Newgate held a banquet on the desert island. Newgate shook his head with a wry smile after hearing this. It's just you, forget it. Gu la 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 la. Although I am quite tired of the Rox pirate atmosphere. But it's too early for you to say this. Roger frowned slightly on the side. He had already understood the Rox pirate. People like Newgate should not be in the Rox pirate. They're inappropriate. Is Rox really that strong? Seeing his disbelief, Newgate sighed and explained. Captain Rox beat me to the punch and it only took 10 minutes. Even though my strength has continued to increase over the years, I can still feel that I am no match for him. Rayleigh and others were unmoved. No matter how strong Rock's pirate was, it had nothing to do with them. And they have long been prepared to face the Rock's pirate. After all, the sea is only so big. Roger smiled when he heard it. That's interesting, isn't it? Ha ha ha. It's good to be strong, so you won't have no opponents. Roger didn't take it seriously. The stronger the opponent, the more pressure he would have and the faster he would grow. I just don't know when I can play against Rocks again. Suddenly Roger's attitude changed and he turned to look at Newgate next to him. What do you wish for? This sentence made Newgate think deeply. It seems like when did I first have the desire? It's been so long that I can't remember. He put down the wine glass, pondered for a moment and said, I want to have a real family, a family that can share joys and sorrows. I just don't know when this wish will come true. Snapped. Roger's right hand slapped Newgate on the shoulder. As long as people have dreams, they will come true anytime, don't worry, ha ha ha. Rayleigh and Jabba looked at the wild Roger and covered their faces with a wry smile. This captain is good at everything, but as long as he drinks too much, he can do any outrageous things. But it was Roger's generous character that allowed them to get together. Newgate looked at the drunken Roger. After a short period of getting along, he was actually quite optimistic about the model of the Roger pirates. He didn't want Roger to die in vain, so he kindly reminded him. Captain Rocks wants to recruit you. If you don't join, you may be pursued by the Rocks pirate. Others are easy to say. With your strength, you should be able to escape. I just hope you don't run into Carl. Newgate has played against Roger and knows Roger's strength. In his opinion, as long as Rocks doesn't personally take action in the entire pirate group, Roger will be able to fight. But there is another special case. Carl. Carl is not only powerful himself, but the strength of his men is not that bad either. If they really encounter the Roger pirates, everyone except Roger, Rayleigh, and Jabba may be destroyed in the sea. Roger put his face directly next to Newgate and thought about the information about Carl. Carl? He's the new vice captain of Rock's pirate. Okay. Newgate saw that Roger didn't take it to heart and didn't say much. That was enough. Any more words would be bad. On the other hand, Rayleigh on the side nodded solemnly. It seemed that they didn't know Carl well enough. He also knew that Newgate wouldn't talk nonsense. Newgate has played against Roger and has experienced Roger's strength. However, being reminded like this shows that Carl's strength and team are indeed much stronger than them. He will find a way to avoid a head-on conflict with Rock's pirate later. But if it is really unavoidable, then you must be fully prepared. Cake Island. After Carl returned to Cake Island, he sent Lin Lin back to his room and had dinner. Bolsolino and Sakazuki were summoned in the hall, as well as the Yi Xiao trio. On the way here, the three of them had already learned from the side that they were going to join Carl's command. They didn't know if this was a good thing or a bad thing. After all, Carl was a pirate. But they were still kids, and they were already on Sky Island. I couldn't think of any solution for a while, so I could only follow helplessly. Looking at Borsalino in front of me, something seemed different. Under Carl's gaze, Bolsolino's hair stood on end, as if he was being targeted by an apex predator. What Carl didn't know was that when a person has been in a high position for a long time, he will involuntarily develop an inexplicable aura. So even if he doesn't release Haki, he will inadvertently affect others. Oh, you ate devil fruit. I see. Is Borsalino eating devil fruit at this time? In the original novel, it was never said when they all ate devil fruit. It seems that Sakazuki also ate lava fruit before joining Marine, but it looks like he didn't eat it either. Will I not be able to find lava fruit? Should we send him back? Borsalino took a deep look at Carl. He didn't expect that the man in front of him would see through his eating of devil fruit at a glance. Ever since he ate sparkling fruit, he has never shown devil fruit's abilities in front of outsiders. So no one else knew he had eaten devil fruit, and he would only practice secretly in his room. Yes, I ate devil fruit, it's Logia sparkling fruit. As soon as he finished speaking, Sakazuki beside him smiled with a look of shock. They didn't expect that this humble guy in front of them would actually eat Logia. You must know that this is Logia, the most powerful type of devil fruit. The added value alone, being immune to various physical attacks, is enough to make the value of any Logia devil fruit soar. And if I remember correctly, Logia Devil Fruit is worth 100,000 contribution points here. Carl touched his chin. He did not expect that Bolsolino, who was only 15 years old, had already eaten the devil fruit. He has already sent people all over the world to collect devil fruit. I originally wanted to give the sparkling fruit to a more suitable person, but I didn't expect to be impartial and let him eat it anyway. Do you know my wish? The three people sat on the stools and looked at each other and shook their heads. How could they possibly know Carl's wishes? Carl changed into a comfortable position, crossed his legs, leaned back, and made a boss posture. This world is a bit rotten. What's the reason? Carl threw the topic to the three of them, wanting to see if the three of them had had such thoughts when they were so young. The characters in the pirate world are all relatively precocious, even the youngest Fujitora is now 11 years old. Therefore, their basic innate character has been determined, and it is not something that can be changed simply by anyone who wants to. Pirates? Mafia? The three of them did say something, but these were not what Carl wanted to hear. That's right, at such a young age, they might not be able to encounter celestial dragons. He leaned forward. Celestial dragons. Chapter 142. Three people return home. It's the celestial dragons that really corrupt this world. Carl didn't talk nonsense and opened the topic directly. At the same time, hand them the document at hand. Yi Xiao sat in the nearest direction, stood up quickly and handed over the document. The document is divided into 3 parts, one for each person. Carl stretched out his hand to indicate that only if they saw the evidence of Celestial Dragon's crimes would they truly follow Carl wholeheartedly. Rather than being a double agent. I heard a fan say that Kizaru is an undercover agent of the Revolutionary Army and is known as Lazy Justice. I don't know the specific strength, but in Summit War, he is the best at paddling. One bite is terrifying, one bite is a supernova. Although I don't know if it's true or false, I still want to avoid it. The 3 people opened the file respectively and looked at the things recorded inside. It contains not only photos but also time, process, and even Marine's processing method. This is all information transmitted by intelligence networks all over the world, absolutely guaranteed. And Celestial Dragons has always been like this, so this kind of information is simply a lot to search for. Sakazuki slapped the armrest of the stool angrily. Damn it! He has never thought that celestial dragons are cancerous. This may be related to his knowledge. After all, what can a 12-year-old child know? But now he will remember it. Although he didn't believe it, with such a clear time and place, they could completely confirm this even if they investigated it themselves afterwards. He also felt that there was no need for a powerful pirate like Carl to deceive them on this matter. It's just that he didn't expect that there were such bad people in the world. Borsalino's face turned serious. It's so scary. He is the oldest of these people, now 15 years old. Although I have heard that celestial dragons often engage in activities all over the world. But looking at the photos and information of countries being destroyed one by one in front of me, only then did I realize that the so-called activities of celestial dragons were to play the game of destroying countries. And because of celestial dragons, slave trading is actually legal. Looking at the photos in the document, there are people of various races in them, locked in iron cages. This information was also taken by reporters from Sabo de Archipelago, who took risks and took photos from slave traders. A smile has not yet destroyed his eyes. His eyes were cold, and it was the first time he saw these things. He didn't expect Marine, who was usually so just, to be the protector of the celestial dragons. Below, his teeth were clenched. Presumably after he saw this, he probably wouldn't think about destroying his eyes anymore. After seeing that all of them had finished expressing their emotions, Carl sighed and said slowly, "Celestial dragons are the key to the decay of this world. My purpose is very simple, it is the same as my wish." Several people turned their attention to Carl. Carl looked at them, each of their eyes turning red. Obviously what Celestial Dragons has done has basically stopped them from wanting to join Marine. I just want everyone to have enough to eat, no more oppression, fairness, justice and openness. At the end of the document are the laws and regulations on this island. You can take a brief look at them. Several people flipped the document to the end, and there was indeed a thin piece of paper at the end with a lot of laws and regulations written on it. Yi Xiao was the first to read out. On the island, random killing, robbery, and rape are not allowed. Sakazuki then read the second article. No smuggling, no intentional murder. Borsellino looked a little trembling and read the last sentence of the article. Everything serves the civilians. Carl listened quietly to the voices of several people. He knew that he would have 3 more capable men under his command. As long as they are within my sphere of influence, everyone must abide by these terms, including me. But these terms can only be within my sphere of influence, understand? Carl threw the question to them and asked them to think carefully about why these things could only be implemented within his sphere of influence. Sakazuki pulled out the photo of the massacred island residents and asked, "Did they make any mistake?" Carl didn't expect Sakazuki to ask this question, but still gave him an affirmative answer. The only mistake they made was that they were too weak to defend their homeland. To be weak on the sea is the original sin. I believe you have also heard something about New World. The law of the jungle is the law of the pirate world. Smiling as I think about Rock's pirate now. In the New World, Rock's pirate can be regarded as the uncrowned king. But in the entire world, celestial dragons are the so-called uncrowned kings. And the one I want to overthrow is the celestial dragons. I'm joining. Count me in too. Although I don't have much power now, I still want to contribute to this great cause. Seeing the attitudes of the 3 of them, Carl quickly stood up and walked to them, stretching out his huge right hand. Welcome, New World Unknown Desert Island. After the hangover, Newgate, Roger and his party woke up one after another. Looking at the dazzling sunshine coming from the horizon, I felt a warmth in my body. Newgate, see you next time. Roger, see you next time. After Newgate greeted Roger, the 2 groups of people left the desert island, and Roger continued on his journey. Newgate leads his men back to Beehive Island. On the way back, he called Rox. Bola, Bola. Hello, Captain Rox? Rox looked at the phone call from Newgate in front of him with deep eyes. He had long known that Roger was the descendant of D, so he sent Newgate, a capable man, to find Roger. I just want to conquer Roger and his group and break the curse that only celestial dragons can rule. Newgate, has anything progressed? Newgate listened to the faint voice on the phone and rubbed his brow. Captain Rox, the Roger pirates are unwilling to join us. I have fought against him, and his strength is about the same as mine, so he failed to complete the task. Rox's eyes became serious. He didn't expect Roger to be so ignorant. Come back first. Bah. When Newgate saw the phone being hung up suddenly, he didn't say anything and just put the phone away. He turned around and looked at the pirates under his banner. Beehive Island, drive at full speed. After saying this, he ignored the noise outside and returned directly to the cabin. He didn't take it to heart. Carl, I don't think I can do this thing of yours for the time being. Cake Island, inside Vegapunk's research room. Carl frowned slightly as he looked at Vegapunk, who was walking up to him with a test tube in his hand. Is there any difficulty? Vegapunk gently shook the liquid in the test tube and took off the glasses he was using for research. The breath of life is too active. It's very difficult to clone it. Chapter 143. The idea of cloning. How long will it take if it succeeds? A brightly lit research room. Vegapunk, Carl, Geisa, Quinn and others have been discussing this matter for a long time in this small research room. Carl walked around the research room, worried. He is still a little unwilling to give up, because if this thing succeeds, there will be an invincible army at his command. Then it will give him greater help in overthrowing IM. Quinn thought for a moment and pushed out a person. Vinsmoke has studied this aspect before. How about using him? Indeed, Vinsmoke perfectly demonstrated the technology of human cloning in the original work. It's just that the lifespan is a bit short, only 5 years, but it's perfectly fine for use as consumables. Moreover, maybe with Vegapunk's research, lifespan can be extended. Carl thought carefully on the sidelines and found that it was not impossible to find Vinsmoke. It seems that Vinsmoke will be the next target. For the sake of his great cause, Vinsmoke can only sacrifice a little first. Vinsmoke from North Blue. Vegapunk walked to the experimental table unhurriedly. Put the test tube on the experimental table and think about it carefully. If I were to research it alone, it might take about 10 years. This is still under the condition that I am researching it with all my strength. But I'm currently working hard on researching bloodline factors, so I may not have time to take care of this. Carl also knew that the blood factor was indeed more important than this technology. Moreover, the blood factor is also a project that Vegapunk has been improving for a long time, and it is impossible to give up just because it is said to be giving up. It seems that this project will have to wait a while. Look at Geisa next to you. If I remember correctly, Geisa studies human genes. He waved to Guy. This plan will be left to you to study first. After the bloodline factor is researched, you can start this project. Vegapunk glanced at Geisa and nodded. Geisa is indeed a good choice to study human genes. Guy's research on human genes is also outstanding. In their team, only Geisa and Vinsmoke have done biological research. Quinn is engaged in chemistry, while Vegapunk's main research direction is genetic level. This is okay too. I have no opinion. Seeing that Vegapunk agreed, he looked at Geisa in front of him. Geisa didn't dare to hesitate when he saw Carl's eyes, and nodded quickly. Okay. He didn't want to make Carl unhappy. Anyway, whether this matter was good or bad, Vegapunk would take over in the end. It just so happens that you can take advantage of this time to be lazy. Thinking about it this way, it makes me feel a little complacent. This should be considered fishing at work. Quinn, you are still responsible for being Vegapunk's assistant. Then you can study first, and I will leave first. After Carl finished speaking, he turned around and left the institute. It seems that he thought this matter too simply. But fortunately it's not too late. As soon as Carl walked out of the laboratory door, he immediately called Clay and Wano-kuni. Clay is at the rabbit well, watching the mining of sea stone. When he heard the phone ringing, he signaled them to continue, because the scene was too noisy, so it was difficult for him to answer the phone here. Then he turned around and came to a relatively quiet space. Lord Carl. After Carl heard Clay's reply, he said very quickly. I'll give you a task. Let your Murlocs focus on searching for a man named Vinsmoke. He should be in North Blue now. Tell me as soon as you confirm his address. Okay, Captain Carl. New World Dressrosa. Captain, we have arrived at Dressrosa. Ha, boys, get off the boat and recuperate. Baruch is a new pirate in the New World. Looking at the bustling city in front of him, this is also their first time coming to Dressrosa. He looked at the photo on the wanted poster. Ha, the bounty is not that high. The men next to him ran over and looked at Captain Baruch holding a reward order. Captain, what is this? Looking at the men approaching from the side, he quickly folded the wanted poster and put it in his breast pocket. He waved his hand. Go. Because Baruch moved quickly, the subordinate did not see anything useful. Captain, you are so stingy. The man scratched his head and saw that there was nothing to see, so he turned back to the cabin to help. Baruch stood on the dock and lost himself in memories. Freedom is such a beautiful word. The captain is gone. He came back to his senses when he heard shouts in the distance. Looking at the ship, there was no one on board. These brats. Baruch shook his head and chuckled. Come right over. So he strode towards the island. Because they had been wandering at sea for more than 10 days before, they needed to release the loneliness and boredom on this island. Boom, confused. Give me money, give me money, give me money. When a group of people arrived at the tavern, they heard such a sound coming from the attic next to them. Baruch was a little curious, so he walked over with his men. Captain, what is this? It's so lively. Wesker looked at Captain Baruch with curiosity. Baruch shook his head. Brother, what are you doing? The disturbed pirate looked impatient, but when he saw Baruch's face, his calf twitched unnaturally. He said with a trembling voice, This is Mahjong. It was passed down from Lord Carl of Rock's pirate. There are many other projects that were passed along, most of them are here. At first, the pirate wanted to scare him, but after careful observation, he found that the person tapping him on the shoulder was Captain Baruch, who had a bounty of 150 million belly. He breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Baruch walking inside. The people at the same table saw his reaction and were a little disapproving. There were so many big pirates here, so there was nothing to worry about. Come on, keep on. Captain, I think we need to buy some of this too. Baruch looked at his deputy captain, Vesker, and nodded. After traveling, they found that these things could alleviate the boredom and tastelessness of being on the sea to a certain extent. Then I'll leave it to you. After Wesker got the order, he found the manager of the tea house and bought a set of tools for various gameplays here. The various ways of playing mahjong and poker, Monopoly, dice and other ways of playing have long been popular in New World. But since there is the Fishmen Island between the first half of New World and the second half, these things have not spread to the first half of Grand Line. But as time goes by, sooner or later these novel things will spread throughout the sea. Chapter 144. Preparation 3 years. Current time, January 1484. West Blue Valley of the Gods. Hurry and deliver the things to Lord Celestial Dragons. Last time someone failed to deliver on time, you should know the consequences. The quadrennial sacrifice of the Valley of Gods is about to begin. The entire Valley of Gods became busy, and the intelligence agencies of all parties began to operate rapidly on this day. Except for some people who know the inside story, others have no idea what is going on in the Valley of the Gods. There are slave ships, merchant ships and chefs from all over the world. Merchant ships, cooks, and musicians prepare meals and entertainment for the celestial dragons worshipping in the Valley of the Gods. Slaves are also one of the main playthings of celestial dragons above the Valley of the Gods. There was a bodyguard-like man standing at the port, wearing a black suit, a white shirt, and a gentleman's hat, and he said to the shore, "In 10 days, it will be the gathering of the celestial dragons adults. We must complete this matter properly." Dozens of people were already standing on the shore, and these people were on the bows of various slave-catching ships. Their main duty is to capture slaves from all over the world for the amusement of the celestial dragons. Any link can be slowed down, but this link must not be slowed down, but must be advanced. A 3-meter-tall strong man walked out of the crowd. He was none other than the giant Stark, the invisible boss of the bows of these slave ships. He is the only one here who has enough weight to stand up and speak. He was dressed gorgeously and wore various gold rings on each of his 10 fingers. She was wearing a burgundy dress that looked a little tight on her body. There is a gold necklace hanging on his chest. Just from his appearance, it is not difficult to see how much he loves gold. "Okay, sir." When Stark opened his mouth, you could even see that his mouth was filled with gold teeth. According to his operation, if it hadn't been very painful to replace the bones, maybe he would have replaced his own bones with golden ones. The bodyguard-like man nodded, and then walked towards the island without looking back. His duty is only to inform these people and let them deliver the slaves on time and on time. As for whether they can be delivered on time, it depends on whether the bows of these ships are that lucky. After seeing the bodyguard walking away, the crowd began to talk. It happens every 4 years. Remember last time, Vista just didn't deliver it on time, it seemed. The companion on the side directly covered his mouth. "Keep your voice down, is this allowed to be said? Don't even look where it is." Several other people nearby also knew the result of Vesta, so they kept silent. No one wanted to get angry. At this moment, Stark stood up and looked at the bodyguard first. Then he turned around and looked at them, pressing his hands down. As soon as he opened his mouth, he saw a mouth full of big yellow teeth, shining brightly. "Okay, we all know our respective tasks. If we send them here on time, it won't be a big deal. I don't want anyone to make a mistake. If someone makes a mistake, then I don't mind doing it myself. Understand?" The people below seemed to be calmed by Stark at this moment. The purpose of Stark's doing this is to avoid involving the people below him. Because he has a name with the celestial dragons, if his subordinates make mistakes, the celestial dragons will only look for him, not his subordinates. "I understand, Boss Stark. We will definitely deliver it on time and on time." Stark nodded, then waved his hand towards everyone. Others turned their heads and started walking towards their ships. They had to send their best slaves to the Valley of Gods within 10 days. Stark watched everyone go out to sea, and then boarded his Ior. He walked into the cabin and took out the phone bug in his arms. Bola, Bola. Kingdom of Kroa. In a luxurious room, a middle-aged man in a suit was leaning on the sofa, smoking a cigar, and saw the phone in front of him ringing. Waving his left hand, the 2 bodyguards in suits nodded and exited the room. After closing the door, he answered the phone that was ringing in front of him. Moses, Moses. After Stark heard the call being answered, he walked to the door of the room and listened carefully to the sounds outside. The next moment, he opened the door and stuck his head out to look around. After finding that no one was there, he closed the door and walked inside the cabin. Brother, the Valley of Gods has begun. When the middle-aged man in a suit heard the news, his cigar instantly fell from his mouth. There was a look of joy on their faces. They had been waiting for this day for a long time. Because this is the first time their family has received a mission in 4 years. He took a deep breath and spoke slowly. What time? Stark didn't talk nonsense, but said it directly. 10 days later, thanks for your hard work. Cake Island. In a spacious room, he took his children to play in the room. Okay, I know. Carl hung up the phone and looked at Linlin aside. His face was filled with an irrepressible smile. Linlin, it's time. Hearing this, Linlin put down her 2 newly born little girls, Yi Linhong and Yi Liniang. The 2 of them were born at the end of 1483 and are 1-year-old this year. There are also the 10th daughter Yi Linyao, the 11th daughter Yi Linhu, and the 12th daughter Yi Linshao. The 3 of them were born in 1480 and are 4 years old this year. Because they were nourished by the bloodline pill when they were born, they are stronger than other children. The 12th Cotyledon Yi Linchen was born at the end of 1481, the 13th Cotyledon was born temporarily, and is now 3 years old. The 14th Cotyledon Yi Linming, the 15th Cotyledon Yi Linyu, and the 16th Cotyledon Yi Linji were born at the end of 1482 and are now 2 years old. Linlin put the child down and looked at Perispero, who was now 14 years old. After being nourished by the bloodline pill, his height has reached 2 meters. He did not accumulate the monthly draws over the years and drew them all. Among them were several bottles of bloodline pills, so Perispero and others also took one. Activating the bloodline in Charlotte Linlin in their bodies. Although not everyone has the physique of a steel balloon, it also stimulates their physique on the other hand. Everyone is expected to be more than 6 meters tall. Perispero, take care of your brothers and sisters. Perispero knew about Father Carl and Linlin. We discussed important matters and did not refuse. Don't worry, Mom, Dad, just leave it to us. Carl and Linlin nodded and walked out of the room, while Perispero watched Carl and Linlin walk out of the room. I called Compart through the phone and helped him take care of the child. It's really because the strength of these 10 new babies is so strong. Although the oldest one is only 4 years old, his strength is not inferior to him at all. The most terrifying thing is that the 16th son Yi Linji did not know what kind of nutrients he absorbed in his mother's body, or whether he inherited some terrifying abilities. When he was just born, he kicked Katakuri out of the cake castle and lay in bed for 7 days before he could get off the ground. You must know that Katakuri had fully awakened the glutinous rice fruit at that time, but he couldn't resist it, so now he sees Yi Linji walking around. Chapter 145. The fermentation of the incident. I received news from the West Blue Capone family that the Valley of the Gods festival is about to begin. Linlin and Carl came to the conference room on the top floor of the cake castle and sat facing each other. This conference room was specially built for the 2 of them to talk. Linlin had actually guessed it just now, but when he heard Carl say it himself, he was still a little excited. He quickly picked up the pastries on the table and ate them to relieve his excitement. After finishing the dessert, he leaned back on the sofa and thought about it. So, Rock's Pirate was about to disband, and she felt a little depressed when she thought about it. Although I don't have any feelings for Rock's Pirate, this is the first pirate group I joined, so I will remember it more or less. Well, then what do we do next? Carl also leaned on the sofa on the other side, crossing his legs. Still a little leisurely, he picked up the grapes on the table and put them into his mouth one by one. The focus now is not what we are going to do, but what the rocks are going to do. I don't believe this news, Shaki can't get it. Linlin thought about it for a moment. Over the past few years, news about Shaki has spread all over the world. I don't even know how the intelligence network was set up, but it can produce accurate intelligence every time. In the past 3 years, Marine and Rock's Pirate have clashed hundreds of times. However, since the main battlefield is in New World, Marine has not made much achievements. It is precisely because of this that Marine and Rock's pirate are now distinct. Sahai and the first half of the Grand Line are impregnably guarded by Marine. As for the New World, Marine has always wanted to reach out to the New World, but every time it fails. I think Captain Rox will summon us soon. Carl's eyes were deep. He had been looking forward to this for more than a day or two. Beehive Island. Rox sat in the hall and looked at Shaki in front of him. Captain Rox, the news is accurate. The Valley of the Gods sacrificial ceremony will be held in 10 days. The time and place are here. Shaki stepped forward and handed the file to Rox. Rox's eyes were gloomy, and his face that had been gloomy all year round finally smiled. Ha ha ha, you did a great job, Shaki. The next moment, Rox crooned. The distribution of power on the island. Shaki immediately sputtered. According to information analysis, this time the Valley of the Gods will be followed by Marines Marshal Hill, Admiral Zephyr, Kong, Sengoku and others, as well as a dozen vice admirals headed by Garp. Field Marshal Vico, Army Admiral Tak, Leah, Seer, Air Marshal Sko, and Air Force Admiral Corsius Casa Udir will also be present. Shaki paused and swallowed. He didn't know if he didn't collect it. He was shocked when he collected it. The strength of world government is far from being as simple as it appears on the surface. He raised his head and glanced at Rox cautiously and continued. According to intelligence sources, even CP0 will have 2 to 3 admiral-level powerhouses, as well as the Knights of God whose strength is unknown. So, to sum up, nearly 20 admiral-level experts will appear in the Valley of Gods. After Shaki finished speaking, he stood quietly aside, waiting for Rox to speak. Rox sat on the chair and tapped the armrest with his right index finger, making a clicking sound. It seems like we need to find something for them to do. What's going on over there at Rox? After receiving the news from the spies, Rox wants to start a war on the Valley of the Gods. Naval Headquarters large conference room, bang. Sengoku slammed the table, startling everyone present. He said with an angry look, "Can't they change the place or the time?" The other Marines had this in mind, but no one dared to say it. You know, these are celestial dragons, not ordinary people. Ahem. Marshal Hill put his right hand to his mouth and coughed lightly. Sengoku, don't be motivated. Celestial Dragons has communicated with them and they will not change it. And we, the Marines, are asked to dispatch all Admiral-level warriors to escort us to the Valley of Gods. Garp knew this would be the case and took out the donuts in his pocket. Click. Sengoku turned to look at Garp beside him and shook his head helplessly. Garp. Seeing Marshal Hill's glare, Garp quickly put the donuts back into his clothes with a sneer on his face. He took out the donuts just to attract everyone's attention and not to make the atmosphere tense. The next moment, Marshal Hill stood up. Kong, Zephyr, Sengoku, you three come with me to the Valley of the Gods. By the way, Garp, you lead the team and bring all the vice admirals stationed at Naval Headquarters. Okay, let's break up the meeting. After Marshal Hill said these words, he fell heavily on the chair and waved his hands to everyone. Kong stood up first. Yes, Marshal. Everyone in Marine stood up, saluted Marshal Hill, and finally filed out. World Government. Mariejoy. In a luxurious conference room, the scar-faced 5 elders were sitting on the sofa, looking at the other 4 people with their swords in hand. Their gathering this time was also about the Valley of the Gods and Rox. How is this matter handled? Is there any flaw? Longbeard 5 elders smoothed his beard and said calmly. Things are perfect and very real. Just waiting for Rox to fall into the trap. I just hope that this battle will not alarm Lord I Am. The middle-aged 5 elders are more worried about whether they have enough bait. If there is less bait and the plan fails, then it will be a waste of money. How about the bait? This is the bait placed by the lanky 5 elders themselves, so of course there is no problem. Don't worry, it's all done, West Blue. Captain Baruch, is this your hometown? After dozens of battles in the second half of the New World, Baruch and his party discovered the factors behind their own lack of strength, and also learned about the most important thing in the New World, hockey. He took the lead in returning to West Blue and worked hard in West Blue for a few years. After everyone's hockey training was successful, he rushed to the New World again. But after everyone was ready, Baruch wanted to return to his hometown first. Baruch looked at the kingdom of Kroa in the distance, the country where he was born and raised. Yes, this is my hometown. After we rest here for a while, we will go directly to the New World. Wesk, leave it to you. He patted Vice Captain Wesk on the shoulder and then walked off the ship first. Wesk shook his head helplessly. Just be lazy. He knew what Baruch meant, which was actually to let him stay and watch the ship. Because there is a news that has been circulating in West Blue in the past few years, that is, the Capone Beeg family, the largest underground mafia in West Blue, is located in Kroa. Therefore, they must leave a person strong enough to guard the ship to prevent the mafia family from driving the ship away. Chapter 146. Respective Development, Tap Tap Tap. I like this boat. Capone Beeg, who was 4 years old, was walking in the harbor with his bodyguards when he suddenly saw Baruch's ship. He had never seen such a beautiful ship. The ships of Baruch and others were bought at the New World underground trading place, so they are naturally more beautiful and sturdier than the ships of the Four Seas. It's no wonder that Capone Beeg couldn't be more interested in him. Wesker lay on the edge of the boat and looked at the young Capone Beeg in front of him. Kid, this is our boat. Capone Beeg shook his head. What I like is my boat. I order you to get off my boat immediately. Wesker looked at the bodyguard next to him and guessed that he might have been spoiled by his family since he was a child. Have you been to New World? Capone Beeg stretched out his right hand and rubbed his chin. New World? Where is New World? I've never been there. Where is New World? Wesker turned over and jumped off the boat. Walk up to Capone Beeg and squat down. How should I say the New World? It should be a very cruel place. It can be said to be a paradise for the strong and a hell for the weak. Children, it's not enough just to be famous all over the world. The real big stage is in New World. After Wesker finished speaking, he turned around and walked back to the ship. But when he turned around, his face became serious, because when he squatted in front of the child, dozens of malicious waves came from around him. If the guess is correct, they may be members of the Capone Beeg family. Now they don't have the time to start a conflict with the mafia. According to the information on the surface, the Capone Beeg family now controls the underground dark forces of the entire West Blue. Killing, gambling, selling arms, provoking wars between countries, and all kinds of evil things. But these mafias were not involved in the slave trade, which was actually what Carl had requested. Because what Carl hates most is slave trading. No matter how the mafia develops in the world, they will not be allowed to accept the slave trading business. Moreover, the mafia in each region completely controls an area of the sea, so their economic sources are pretty good, and they can be described as a monopoly of violence. The Capone family of West Blue not only controls the sphere of influence in West Blue, but has even extended to the first half of the Grand Line. The Capone family was the first to extend their tentacles to the front half of the Grand Line. As early as half a year ago, their tentacles had already been deployed in the first half. This matter was also done with Carl's consent. Their power in the first half of the Grand Line was not yet stable, so it was not too late to intervene at this time. The Tungtian Chamber of Commerce in West Blue and the Tungbao Arsenal in North Blue have often cooperated in the past 3 years. The business scope has already expanded to the entire sea. From the various formulas and machinery and equipment provided by Carl, they have firmly controlled more than 25% of the world's trade needs. The wealth brought by this 25% trade demand has long been noticeable. If it weren't for the fact that Celestial Dragons was busy with the Valley of Gods, they might have started to take action against these two organizations. But it's too fast to think about it. After the Valley of Gods incident is over, they should take action on these two organizations. 25% of trade brings 15% of the world's funds. This huge amount of funds even exceeds the total amount of gold provided by dozens of participating countries. And thanks to the Shaolin Great Return pill that Carl gave them before, they can solve most of the problems by themselves without Carl personally coming forward. East Blue's Pirate Hunters Guild also cooperated with News of the World. In the past 3 years, branches of the Pirate Hunters Guild have been established in every corner of the Four Seas and the first half of the Grand Line. It can even be said that even in a remote town, there will be a Pirate Hunter Guild stationed there. As you kill a large number of pirates, you will get a huge bounty. They have begun to use this money to adopt most of the orphans whose parents died due to the war and train them from childhood. I believe that in another 5 to 10 years, the first batch of people trained by pirate hunters will grow up. The news of the world is responsible for collecting information, and the pirate hunter is responsible for carrying out tasks. It must be considered a happy cooperation in the past 3 years. The Dragnet of South Blue's killer organization is so powerful that it has already replaced the Killer House in the original work. The two major organizations, Dragnet and Killer House, were shut down a year ago. It can be said that one mountain cannot tolerate two tigers. With Carl's secret help, how could the Killer House be the opponent of Dragnet? After the Killer House was cleaned up, the Dragnet naturally became the new underground killer organization. Darren, the leader of the killer organization, even personally assassinated a peak-level vice admiral. After he succeeded, he was publicized by reporters and became famous, and his business in the entire sea was very good. After all, there are only a few admiral-level warriors on the sea, who can assassinate the Marine Vice Admiral peak-level warrior and escape unscathed. This killer organization is more than one level better than the previous Killer House. As the power of the world continues to consolidate, Carl has also received countless devil fruits over the years, at least dozens of them. But they were all zone and ordinary paramecia, and they didn't have very powerful fruits, so they were all given to his subordinates. It can be regarded as an act of motivating them. It's not that he doesn't understand the principle of letting the horse eat grass first if he wants the horse to run. On Cake Island, Davis and others have not had any tasks in the past 3 years, and they have also improved their strength by several levels. After working on the mission for a year, Redfield successfully exchanged the golden light spell in his hand and is now proficient in it. After being trained by Carl, Borsellino did not rely too much on devil fruit. Because although sparkling fruit was fast enough, Borsellino had to succumb to Carl's force. Borsellino is already 18 years old, and his strength has reached the Vice Admiral level. Sakazuki and Yishao are 14 and 15 years old respectively. Their strength has reached the peak of the Rear Admiral level and is only one step away from the Vice Admiral level. But Borsellino only practiced seriously when Carl was around. Seeing this, Carl knew that it would be better to educate children from an early age, so he tried to find a way to bring all the children over 6 years old in the original book to him. Among them are 10-year-old Gecko Moria, 9-year-old Kuzan, 7-year-old Shang, 7-year-old Yorogue, Magellan, Abel, and even 6-year-old Jinbei and Crocodile. Since Borsellino's character has not changed, the characters of the others cannot be the same as in the original work. They must have a positive heart. Especially Gecko Moria and Crocodile, whose mentality is most likely to explode, so they often give him political tutoring lessons. Chapter 147. The Last Beehive Island. Thanks to 3 years of steady development, 56 islands in the entire Desert Sea area have been developed. There are currently 2.7 million fishmen living in the Sweet Sea. Carl selected 500,000 of them to form 5 Murloc armies. The daily work of these 5 fishmen legions is to train, and train more. They are used as regular troops and do not participate in other activities on weekdays. I just hope that when they are used, the sharpest side can be exposed. Wano Kuni has not stopped either. In the past 3 years, through Carl's hands, a large number of sea stones have been purchased across the entire sea, collecting a large amount of funds for him. In addition to being used for research by Vegapunk and others, he has invested the rest of the money on the 56 islands in the Desert Sea. And over the years, he has continued to purchase all kinds of slaves from all over the world to enrich 56 islands. Paving the way for the final plan, Marine didn't wait around for 3 years. Although there are no big moves, there are constant small moves. Since large-scale conscription was not allowed, they had only conducted several small-scale conscriptions in the past 3 years to replenish the Vice Admiral-level powerhouses that had been lost before. It's just that no Admiral-level strongman was born. And due to the constant collision with Rock's pirate in the past 3 years, it has raised a 100,000-strong Marine force. They are all Marine soldiers who have experienced more than 10 battles. It can be said that both Marine and pirates are now ready for the war. Inside the Cake Island, Carl was doing the final war mobilization and called all the core members of the island to the large conference room of the Cake Castle. Clay asked, looking at him, "Have you found the place where John hid the treasure?" Clay answers below. "Found it, Lord Carl." The fishmen said reported that John often goes to the small island 30 nautical miles northwest of Beehive Island. So, one time when John was not on the island, the fishman sneaked in and found a large amount of gold, silver and jewelry hidden inside. But in order to avoid being discovered by John, I didn't go deep. Carl nodded, knowing where John's treasure was, so Rock's treasure. He accepted it unceremoniously and praised it quickly. "Well done. You should take this as your top priority and give you 10,000 points." Then look at Jennifer and Smith on the left. A big battle is about to begin, and the destination is the Valley of the Gods in West Blue. Carl said as he picked up the file on the side and handed it to Clay, who took the file into the hands of Jennifer and Smith. After the two took it, they began to look through the documents. They had been prepared for this day for a long time, and both of their devil fruits had developed to the point where they were about to awaken. This is enough to show how hard the two of them have worked to develop devil fruits abilities in the past 3 years. At the same time, he did not gain anything in the past 3 years. At least he got the fruit of the Capone family's castle in the original work. And fed the castle fruit to the White Tiger. It's because in the past 3 years, White Tiger has continuously developed the abilities derived from the Thunder Tiger, finally discovered a trace of the blood of the Holy Beast, and learned a small magical power that can be easily changed. The smallest body is as big as a palm, and the largest is a giant tiger hundreds of meters tall. It's just that shrinking the body is the most energy-saving way, but the body can only last for an hour when the body is the largest. So after he realized this ability, Carl selected him as the owner of the castle fruit. Accompanying Jennifer and Smith, they sneak into the Valley of the Gods. At the same time, there are tens of thousands of fishmen soldiers loyal to him lurking in the White Tiger's body. After seeing the document being caught and read by them, Carl continued. "There is a map on this map. What is recorded on this map is the approximate address in the Valley of the Gods. Looking at the layout on this map, you can find a route to safely sneak into the Valley of the Gods. I stress again, your task is to evacuate immediately after taking out the things. I hope you have mastered devil fruit very well. I don't want to hear the sound of your plan failing during the battle." Then Carl stood up and began delivering his final words. "In this battle, I will take most of the personnel with me. Clay will stay behind. On the one hand, I will take care of Cake Island. On the other hand, I am not too worried about Wano Kuni." Clay stood and saluted. "Understood, Lord Carl." Then Carl stretched out his hand and looked at Linlin, who was standing aside. Linlin smiled slightly and stretched out his right hand in response. The two of them walked towards the outside of the island, their next target being Beehive Island. Rox has sent the letter to them. The most important thing now is to rush to Beehive Island, and then fly directly to the Valley of the Gods through the Lion Fruit of Golden Lion to start this unprecedented battle in the pirate world. At the same time, several rebellions took place on the Red Line. Marine, Air Marshal and Admiral were about to restrain Marine, who was about to go to the Valley of Gods to attend the sacrifice. Although they quickly eliminated the rebellion in front of them, before they could catch their breath, another rebellion started on the other side, and they could only keep running around on the Red Line. This is actually Rock's plan. He just provided some forces with the Valley of the Gods incident. These forces all felt that there was a better opportunity in front of them. If there were no Army and Air Force admirals on the Red Line, they would be the ones clearing out the enemies. It was a great opportunity for the forces, so they launched attacks on the surrounding forces one after another. Carl and Charlotte Linlin took Redfield and the others to Fengchao Island via Sky Island transportation in just a few hours. "Linlin, take another look at Beehive Island. Maybe we won't come here in the future." Linlin nodded and said nothing. As everyone arrived at Beehive Island, they did not stay, but rushed to the conference room. Davis, Redfield, Borsellino and others were left on Sky Island, waiting quietly. In the conference room, Rox is waiting for everyone. Carl and others didn't wait long after they entered, and the rest of the people also arrived. Rox stood up, looked at the people in front of him, and showed a meaningful smile. "Ha ha ha. After laughing briefly, he spoke. I believe that many people know the purpose of why I summoned you. That's right, I want to attack the Valley of the Gods while the celestial dragons are offering sacrifices. This is also my only plan over the years, have nothing to say. Set off. Rox waved his hand and took the lead. Carl, Golden Lion, Linlin, Newgate, Silver Axe, Ochaku, John and others followed behind. The huge fleet has been on the sea for a long time. Rox walked onto the Xebec first and sat in his seat. Carl and others also came to the Xebec. With a wave of Golden Lion's hand, thousands of ships flew out of thin air and floated towards the Valley of the West Blue Gods. Moxie Moxie. Rox set off. I know, please stay safe. Valley of the Gods. Marshall Hill stood on the land of the Valley of Gods, looking at Kong, Sengoku, Zephyr and others next to him. His face was solemn and he said earnestly, the war is coming. Chapter 148. All forces begin to gather New World. Roger pirates. Roger, you should see this. Rayleigh handed a note to Roger. This note was passed to Rayleigh by Shaki. I don't know when Shaki and Rayleigh got connected. Maybe you can't escape the law of the original work. It turns out that Shaki has already passed various evaluations, and more than 80% of Rox Pirate's trips to the Valley of the Gods were met with misfortune. So when she went to sea in Rox Pirate, she had already left Beehive Island and was preparing to retire from the world. But remembering what Rayleigh had ordered, he told Roger the news before leaving. Rox can't do this, I'm going to stop him. Roger crumpled the note into powder with a serious look on his face. Rox going to the Valley of Gods will be an event that shakes the world. He is also the descendant of D. Although he has not yet come to the final island and has not seen the secrets of the final island, he also knows that now is not the time for a full-scale confrontation with the celestial dragons. Guys, it looks like we have something to do. Roger stood up and laughed at everyone. Roger, do we really have to go out into this muddy water? Rayleigh didn't understand. The battle between Rox and celestial dragons may be beneficial to them. In the second half of the Grand Line, their biggest opponent is Rox. Roger walked up to Rayleigh and patted him on the shoulder. He turned to look at Jabba and the others and said, everyone, let's go. The ships will only follow the captain, so after Roger's order, Jabba took the lead and walked towards the control panel with an excited smile. Then their ship began to turn around and sail towards the Valley of the Gods. Meanwhile, on Red Line, Field Marshal Vico dialed the number of 5 elders with a look of helplessness. Moses. Lord 5 elders. There are waves of rebellions on the Red Line. Air Marshal and Admiral and I can't rush to the Valley of the Gods. The bearded 5 elders frowned slightly after hearing these words, and relaxed them the next second. Have you found the mastermind behind it? Vico looked at the chaotic scene in front of him and shook his head. It's so chaotic. All the forces are so intertwined that there's no way to find the mastermind behind it. Boom. Ah. Another big explosion occurred in the church not far in front of Vico. Several surrounding forces began to fight. The scene was so lively. Okay, let's not talk about it for now, the rebels have started again. Bah! After Vico hung up the phone, he rushed forward to stop him. And in the highest conference room of world government. Tell me about it. After the bearded 5 elders hung up the phone, they looked at the remaining 5 elders. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. There are several CP0s on the Valley of Gods now. The middle-aged 5 elders Peter Street has a pensive look on his face. After thinking about it carefully, he said, there should only be 2 now. Bald 5 elders Wo Chu Li Sheng said anxiously. Should we send the Knights of God there? In his opinion, only 2 CP0s are not enough to protect the celestial dragons above the Valley of the Gods. If anything goes wrong, they are to blame. Slim and tall 5 elders Nishu Langsheng. They disagree, their main purpose is to weaken Marine's power. So he said, it's not necessary for the time being. Let Marine support it first. If it doesn't work, then send the Knights of God. This sentence just took advantage of the Scarface 5 elders, Satan Saint. The gradual growth of Marine's power is not the result they want to see. What they need is balance. It doesn't matter what price you pay for it. The bearded 5 elders Moss Saint nodded slightly on the side. This is also a good way to see how powerful Marine is. Otherwise, after the Rocks pirate is resolved, the Marine family will become the dominant one, which is not what we want to see. Several others agreed. Yes, that's the case too. Okay, then it's decided. Just when a few people were about to walk out of the room, the middle-aged five elders Peter Saint suddenly said something. If possible, that Carl also needs to be solved. What he has done recently has gone too far. Brother, aren't we going? Isn't this bad? If that adult takes the blame. Phil quickly raised his hand to stop him from talking, carefully looked around, then leaned into Stark's ear and whispered softly. You should also know where the Valley of the Gods is. If it works, let's continue. If it doesn't work. Stark was a little uneasy and said in a panic. Even if this is the case, aren't you afraid of being liquidated? We can't gamble with our family's lives. Phil leaned lightly on the sofa behind him. I didn't object, right? Why is there a liquidation? Stark suddenly felt that what his eldest brother Phil said made sense. And with their strength, even if they go to the Valley of Gods, they will only be used as cannon fodder at best. Even if this cannon fodder is bigger, it is still cannon fodder. Don't worry, I've already informed you. Whether you go or not is not up to me. Stark said, still a little worried. If they go, we're playing it by ear. The first to take action was the Bardo family of West Blue. Immediately after receiving the letter, the Bardo family began to attack some of the newly born mafia in recent years, and at the same time attracted some of Marine's attention. Yama, I will support you no matter what you do. Don't worry, I will come back safely. He touched Ba Tuo Kuo-hai's head and looked at his wife Ba Tuo Shu with affection. He resolutely led the mafia, left home, and began to cause war across East Blue. Not to be outdone, the pirate hunter forces frantically hunted down scattered pirate groups on the sea, and took their heads to the Marine branch for exchange. The same goes for South Blue and North Blue. The mafia families in the two places kept stirring up trouble in South Blue and North Blue, forcing Marine to station some of his troops locally, unable to move. At the same time, although the Capone family of West Blue did not lend a hand to help, they also caused quite a commotion in various places. And since the Valley of the Gods is in West Blue, their movement will be even louder, forcing Marine not to gather all its strength in the Valley of the Gods. The only ones that were not making a fuss were the Tungtian Chamber of Commerce and the Tungbao Arsenal. But these two trading houses secretly helped the major mafia all over the world to transport gunpowder and personnel, making the war more and more fierce. Bang, what did I say? Something went wrong. Marshall Hill was sitting in the conference room of the Marine warship heading to West Blue. He slapped the document on the table. On the left and right were Kong, Zephyr, Sengoku and Garp. When Wukong took the document and read it carefully, he passed it to the next person after reading it. It seems that Rocks Pirate has a plan for a long time. It can cause chaos all over the world at once. The operation time of this plan should not be short. Sengoku nodded after reading it. I can't stop watching. Maybe it was 3 years ago, when they made the whole world calm down, and they started to make moves. I just don't know which of these forces is their real chess piece. Chapter 149. Prologue. Before the war. It seems that we have to send troops to various places to suppress it. The next moment, Marshall Hill took out another document, which came from all the major franchise countries in the world. They pointed out in the letter that there were pirates and chaos in the country, and Marine needed to be suppressed, and it was signed by dozens of participating countries. Sengoku shook his head, took it, and smiled contemptuously. Their power is really quite big. They can even invite these people. Crane Rear Admiral also raised his head, facing his comrades at the same time. Sengoku showed a kind smile. This must not be the first time this has happened. It's just that we didn't find out until now. Does this mean that they have done a good job in keeping confidential information? I don't think so. Crane Rear Admiral is already a member of the Naval Headquarters staff. She studied the document carefully, then stood up and looked at Marshall Hill. Reporting to the Marshal, it was our staff department who was negligent. Marshall Hill stretched out his right hand and pressed down. Okay, I don't blame you. After all, when the world is stable, things become easier, so everyone becomes a little relaxed. Everyone present nodded, and they also looked through the documents, Who would have thought that just a pirate from the New World could actually raise his tentacles to the four seas and stir up the storm in the entire sea? It seems that the past few years of peace and stability in the world have made their naval headquarters relax a lot. Previously, they had been focusing on the New World, but ignored the situation in the world. How long does it take to reach the Valley of the Gods? Garp suddenly said a meaningless sentence. It was these words that caused a moment of silence. Everyone fell into deep thought, wondering what the meaning of Garp's words was. I always feel like something is not quite right, but I can't put my finger on it. Is it possible they have some conspiracy? Sengoku's words reminded everyone present. They couldn't help but think in their minds, since Rox spent so much effort, what would happen if they arrived at the Valley of the Gods later than Rox? The word, Big Bad, came into the hearts of everyone present. Sengoku, who is worthy of being called the resourceful general, immediately figured out what was wrong and gave everyone a blow. Rock's pirate caused chaos in the sea, and the purpose should be to block them from going to the Valley of the Gods, or to weaken the power they deployed in the Valley of the Gods. From this point of view, if they disperse their forces, it will also lead to insufficient strength to guard the Valley of the Gods, and everything will be lost. But if they don't disperse their forces, the world will become more and more chaotic, which is not what they want to see. What a good plan. It seems that there is a person with a high IQ in Rock's pirate who advises them, Crane Rear Admiral said silently. It's just that they missed one person. In fact, Rox just sent some informants to cause riots on the Red Line. As for the incidents caused by Sahai and the first half of the Grand Line, it was entirely Carl's fault. But because Carl has been very low-key in the past 3 years, everyone has forgotten about Carl, the vice captain of Rock's pirate. This is exactly what Carl wants. Only in this way can Marine let down his guard and his arrangement can be completed. The recorder on the side did not have any sense of crisis in this regard, and said without raising his head, "There are still 5 days." Marshall Hill immediately knew the seriousness of the matter and quickly looked at the messenger at the door. "Go and notify. Let this ship go to the Valley of the Gods as quickly as possible." Looking at the marshal's serious face, the messenger did not dare to hesitate. He saluted hastily, turned around and disappeared around the corner. "Receive." After the person walked far away, the voice of speaking slowly came. "What follows is a fierce battle. I don't need to say more about what the outcome will be. Let's adjourn the meeting." Marshall Hill waved his hand and walked out of the conference room first. He wanted to report this intelligence to the 5 elders. After seeing Marshall Hill walk out of the room, some of the vice admirals present also stood up and went to prepare. "Zephyr, Sengoku, Garp, I hope we can all come back safely from the Valley of the Gods." Kong saluted them with a standard military salute and then walked out of the room with firm eyes. Garp saw that the atmosphere was a bit solemn and immediately burst into laughter. "Zephyr, Sengoku, don't worry. The Rock's pirate can't take away our lives." After Zephyr watched Kong leave, he turned around and smiled. "Yeah, if you want to kill us, Rox is not qualified." "Ha ha ha, ha ha ha." Garp and Sengoku laughed. But they also know that in this battle, someone may fall on the battlefield at any time. Now it's just words to encourage each other, and they all know it. Aboard the Qinglong, Brown looked at several unknown children walking out of the cabin and asked questions. "Who are these boys?" Several strange-looking people appeared in front of them. Their heights ranged from high to over 3 meters, while short ones were quite normal, about 1.45 meters tall. But looking at their young faces, it is not difficult to guess that they are not very old. His guess was indeed correct. The oldest one should be Aramaki, who is now 14 years old, and the youngest ones are Crocodile and Jinbei, who are only 6 years old now. This time, we didn't plan to let them go to the main battlefield. We just wanted them to watch the most prosperous battle in the pirate world. A smile from the side came over, stretched out his hand and began to introduce to everyone. These are the ones who have just joined the Young Pioneers team, namely Aramaki, Gecko Moria, Kuzan, Bartholomew Bear, Madeline, Jinbei and Crocodile. In order to shape their outlook on life from an early age, Carl took in all the children over 6 years old at once. It's just that these children usually train in the Young Pioneers group, so they don't have much contact with Brown and the others. Hello everyone, my name is Bartholomew Bear, from the Kingdom of South Blue. Hello everyone, my name is Gecko Moria, from West Blue. After a short introduction, everyone got to know each other. Little devils, no matter what you think in your heart, it's not your turn to start this battle yet. You can just watch from the sidelines. Davis leaned against the side of the boat and blew out a smoke ring, watching them quietly. He knew that Carl had put a lot of effort into these children, and even taught them personally many times. Although he didn't know what kind of specific plans Lord Carl had, he would not let these children be harmed, that was for sure. Borsellino looked at Davis's serious face and said immediately, "What about us?" Borsellino has also worked hard in the past 3 years, and his strength has also ushered in a leap, far surpassing other children in the same period. The other children also looked at Davis unconvinced. Davis looked at the energetic children in front of him with unyielding expressions on their faces. He shook his head helplessly. Those who are over 17 years old can go to the frontal battlefield. As for others, let's not talk about it anymore. Your life has just ushered in the brilliance, and you should not fall here. Seeing that Borsellino continued to speak, Davis immediately shouted sharply, "This is my bottom line, there is nothing to discuss." Then he turned around and walked into the cabin. Several people looked at each other and shook their heads. None of them chose this time to touch Davis's brow. Chapter 150. Final preparations before the war inside the Zebek number. Carl and his party were sitting quietly in the conference room, waiting for the battle to come. This conference room is located in the heart of the Zebek and is a spacious and luxurious room. The walls are covered with various weapons and trophies and other decorations, showing that the owner here is a powerful pirate. Newgate sat opposite Carl. He was tall, naked and wearing a cape, and drank heavily from a bottle. Lin sat next to him. At this time, she was still a plump woman, and her figure was not out of shape. She was holding the snacks on the plate and chatting with Carl while eating. John and others also looked solemn, because they knew that this battle was related to their life and death, so they had to be careful. The atmosphere in the room became more and more gloomy, and even the voices became much softer, as if there was an invisible pressure hanging on everyone's heart. Rox looked at the people in front of him and knew that this battle would determine their fate. "I just don't know if he can come out of the Valley of Gods alive." "Shaki, how long will it take to reach the Valley of Gods?" Rox's voice sounded particularly clear in the slightly silent conference room. Listening to Rox's unkind voice, Shaki quickly answered, "It will take about 2 days." Rox pondered for a moment and then said. His voice was low and majestic, making everyone present feel irresistible. "In this case, there is no need for you to wait here. Let's all go back to our respective ships." Carl saw Rox's eyes, stood up immediately, nodded, and then said to everyone, "Since there are still 2 days left, let's go back to our respective ships and recharge our batteries." After Carl and Lin walked out of the cabin, they came to Lin's anthem together. Not many of his children came this time, only 4 of them, namely Perispero and Katakuri, Dafu and Owen. The others were either too young or too weak, so not all of them were brought over. Carl walked in front and came to the study alone. Lin, who followed behind, saw Carl entering the study and did not disturb him. Instead, they walked to the kitchen and ordered the chef inside to prepare dinner for them. After Carl came to the study room, he clicked on the system template. Host. Lux D. Carl, Bounty 2.7 billion Belly, Fusion template. Under one person, the Heavenly Master. During the Qin dynasty, there was the Mingyue sword Saint Gai Ni, not fused, and the demon fox Little Matchmaker was powerful and wealthy, not fused. Skills. Armament Hockey Internal Destruction, Observation Hockey to predict the future, Conqueror's Hockey Entanglement, Marine 6 Styles, Golden Light Spell, 5 Thunder Methods, etc. Talent. Titan Strength Money, 378 billion Belly. Items. Shaolin Great Returning Pill 13 bottles, Weiyuan Pill 9, Bloodline Pill 7 bottles, Fang Tian Wahi, Longchen Sword, Great Kue Dao Gaiyu Dao, Da Kue Dao Yinhe Dao. Devil Fruit. Asterisk 18 number of template draws, 3 times. Rating. A first-class strongman on the sea, the peak of overall strength admiral. I haven't smoked in the past 3 years just for today. The system starts the lottery, 3 draws in a row. Whether it is a cow or a horse, it all depends on this. The screen in front of him changed back to the familiar golden compass, and then the compass began to rotate slowly. The rapidly rotating compass shone like a golden sun. Staring at the rapid rotation of the compass, my eyes felt dizzy. He blinked quickly, trying to calm down. Ding dong, the lottery has ended. The templates are Cao Yanbing, Qi, Luxing. Although I have only been in the pirate world for 4 years, I have almost forgotten all the memories of Blue Star. I just feel that the names of these 3 people are so familiar. Carl first clicked on Cao Yanbing's template. Template. Cao Yanbing, from the domestic animation Zhenhun Street. Skills. Great Flame-Cracking Skyhammer, King of Hell Cannon, Trap Dragon Fire Pillar, Phaseless Fire Emperor, Enhanced version of the Phaseless Fire Emperor, 7 generals transformed into dragons, all-powerful flame-killing god. Item. 10 Halls of Yama, it contains 8 souls who have died in battle. Strength. Controlled by the upper limit of strength in the pirate world, Overlord level. Evaluation. Resolute and unyielding character, kind and brave, descendant of Cao Cao, Emperor Wu of Wei. Sure enough, he was indeed a character in Zhenhun Street. Unexpectedly, Cao Yan's soldiers were all drawn out. I just don't know if the souls in the 10 palaces of Yama can be strengthened with soul fruits. Looking at the strength column, it seems that the upper limit of the pirate world should be the so-called Overlord level. I just don't know if I'm strength is beyond that? But this template doesn't seem to fit him now. This ability reminded him of Daifuku, as if he could summon a demon just by eating the steam fruit. However, this demon has no independent consciousness and can only act according to orders. This ability template should be suitable for him. Now that he had decided on the ownership of this template, he didn't have to worry about it, so he clicked on Qi's template. In his impression, there seemed to be very few people with this name, or basically none at all. Template. Qi, pseudonym. Wu Luqi, from the domestic animation Wu Luqi. Skills. Use Qi to control scissors, break up, scissor blades. Extremely fast little flying chicken. Thousands of blades return to 1. Thousands of blades chasing the moon. Thousands of blades flying to the stars. Items. 1000 blade magic knife, 7 segment scissors, variety Gaiba egg, 7 character hair wax. Strength. Controlled by the upper limit of strength in the pirate world, Overlord level. Evaluation. Always looking for his true self in confusion, he is a real top assassin. Carl touched his chin, it turned out to be him. He also looked at Wu Luqi, but he just didn't know whether he could display his true strength in this world. The pirate world is not like the original Blue Star or anime world, where everyone's body and various weird abilities are endless. I just don't know if his template can adapt to the power system of the pirate world. This template is for Killer Internet Cafe, which is considered to have the same origin. He clicked on the last template, Ryusei. I always feel that Lu Xing sounds so familiar. But don't worry too much, you will know after seeing it. Template. Lu Xing, from the domestic animation Stealing Stars in September. Skills. 7th Sense, Cloud Controlling Technique, Ether Controlling Technique, Light Controlling Technique, Thunder Controlling Technique, Gold Controlling Technique, Wood Controlling Technique, Water Controlling Technique, Earth Controlling Technique, Fire Controlling Technique, Combat Moves, Cloud Moving Fist, Flowing Cloud Shield, Cloud Gathering, Black Cloud Blade, Cloud Clone, Wind Roaring Cloud, Pseudo Somersault Cloud, Dark Nebula Star Birth, Doomsday Cannon. Item. Black Emperor Star Ring Strength. Controlled by the upper limit of strength in the pirate world, Overlord level. Evaluation. A shy boy who is not good at words, but can sacrifice himself when disaster strikes. TM. I will TM directly. Can a character like Ryusei really appear in the world of pirates? What a mess. Carl's teeth were exposed with excitement. When he was a child, he also loved to watch Stealing Stars in the Nine Moons, and was very fond of Lu Xing in it. And it collects all 8 elements, but it is said to be a power only possessed by gods. Hoo. Carl's face turned red and his breathing became rapid. What I didn't say is that no one can give this template to anyone else.